Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Wrestling RHAPup podcast. I'm your host, Mari Forth, and with me, as always, my co-host, my tag team partner, the Johnny Gargano to my Tommaso Ciampa, Mr. Matt Scott. Matt, how you doing?
Having a baby. Oh, well, I would be if I was Johnny Gargano. Congratulations to Johnny and Candice LeRae on the news, but I'm good. Happy to be here and have a phenomenal wait, I don't want to steal AJ Styles' gimmick. To have a stupendous guest with us today.
Yes, and please, out of context account, please don't make it seem like Matt has a baby.
Honestly, do whatever you want. It's fine. I'll just try to ignore it and not retweet it.
Shout out to Johnny and Candice. That's such great news. So happy for them, you know, and I love hearing when these wrestling couples are having babies and stuff like that. And I love that the first thing that comes to my mind isn't, oh, what about her career? You know what I'm saying? Like, people are just so annoying with that. But
that's so horrible too.
It's so horrible.
Like, could you imagine?
Swear.
Could you imagine if that's like literally you just skip even like congratulations or like even the
look at
birth
that
of
tweet
the child or like
look at that tweet.
Yeah,
there's plenty of it. Like,
don't have time for it, don't have the energy for it. But yeah, wow.
Exactly.
Look at that. Congratulations to them though. And it always feels really good because like they do a lot of very physical stuff to their bodies in wrestling, but it's also just amazing to see like, yep, I could also have a baby, but I could also do a lion salt and like do all these other amazing things. So Candice is phenomenal, and I'm really happy for them.
I'm really happy for her. And honestly, like what they're doing now with the whole Index storyline and stuff like that, they can still do it. Like, it's so funny because because they actually they feel like parents like to Indy and Dexter. Like this week on NXT, you know, Dexter took Indy out on a date, and it was just the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, I don't mind having a sitcom in the middle of my wrestling show. I know I'm built different, but I loved how they were acting like Indy's parents, and following her to the date and stuff like that.
Yeah, we need more of them. I'll be so upset if Candice especially. If Candice is not able to kind of be I get it, because there's also this whole other dimension
pregnancy
of and COVID safety and all of the things.
True.
But let's see. We'll see. And they've also filmed a ton of stuff at home. So
that's what I was about to say. Yeah, most of that was at home. So that'd be really cool if they just continue to just continue giving me packages from home. I'll be really excited. But other than that, you know, we wish health and safety to both Candice and little baby. Matt, this is not the first time I've seen you in the last 7 days. So
really, what is time? Yeah, no,
I know. Right? What is time?
There were shenanigans, and they're thankfully behind a paywall, aka RHAP's Patreon. We were on the slop together with Rob, of course, the one and only Rob Sesternino. I feel like we have to say people's full names just like they do in wrestling in WWE, because they really have to remind you. So like Rob Sesternino from Rob Has a Podcast. Puya was there, of course. We had PZV showing up, aka the Nipple King. We had Jacob Jones, the one and only Chappelle. So
you missed it. Jacob Jones, you mean aka Trey J. And then Chappelle, aka C Dog. Yes.
Who came up with those names? Not me. Oh, I conveniently forgot them.
I did.
Yeah, that was what did you think about our? Well, number one, what were we doing on the slap for those who aren't aware?
Yeah, for those of you who have been dragging your feet on getting a Patreon subscription to Rob Has a Podcast, we were on the Slop, which is like a Big Brother, like it's just like a variety show where it's just a more laid back take to Big Brother coverage, and we were on there. There were 6 of us, and we were talking about the BB USA versus the BB Can boxing event that took place last week. I think we referenced it a little bit on our podcast last week, but It was so much fun. We were brought in as the as the quote unquote experts for combat sports.
We are.
You know, when lying on your resume like goes around.
I was like, oh yeah, the boxing. I think you made a Muhammad Ali reference maybe at some point. I have no clue. But that was good. Good job.
Yes, all of the sports, all of the hit fight. So yes,
punch,
and then
punch. Do they have kicking in box?
They do not.
Don't even.
Jacob and Chappelle were the on-site correspondents because they were on the scene talking to all of the celebrities in the audience. You can still catch up on their highlights if you go to RHAP Grams on Instagram. They saved the highlights of them going to the BB boxing event. It is really funny. Like, honestly, stop what you're doing right now. No, don't stop what you're doing. Keep watching us. And go on Instagram.
If you have to, just like open a new tab.
There you go. Yeah, multiple tabs. Yeah,
multiple tabs.
So it was so fun.
It was
that episode of the Slop was so crazy. It was supersized.
It was, and Rob always talks about it with the Slop, but it's patron only, so we get a little sloppier on there, and
way sloppier.
I haven't watched it back. I don't want to know what we talked about exactly. It was wild.
Yes, it was very wild. I remember exactly what they were talked about, and it's just, you know, some things deserve to be behind a paywall.
We did talk about bread.
Yes, bread
and pieces of bread. I grew up eating those end pieces of.
Are you serious?
I love those things because I was like, oh, just my piece of bread doesn't have like another side to it, where like the moisture will seep through. Great. I loved it. And so
if you know, you know. If you know, you know. That's all we gotta say. So
yeah. Okay.
As always, if you want access to the patron exclusive content, you can go to www.patreon.com/RHAP, register to become an RHAP patron, and you'll get the exclusive access not only to the Slop, but to a podcast feed, and then, you know, the patron 5 for 5s, and then the patron meetups. So yeah, definitely go check out Patreon and sign up today. Yeah. Other than that, Matt, I mean, we got some great questions from the Job Has a Squadcast Facebook group. Would you like to read the first one?
Yeah, so we actually had two questions that I'm kind of gonna dive into and touch on back to back because they're related. They were both from Derek. Shout out to Derek. Thank you, Derek, for the questions. The first one really is just about the fact that Ridge Holland, Kacy Catanzaro, Xia Li were all doing dark matches. And just to interrupt the question for a second, we did see dark matches before SmackDown between Ridge Holland, or with Ridge Holland, Xia Li, Kacy Catanzaro, and a few other people. Love Kacy getting attention, but why potentially break her and Kayden up was one question. They need tag teams, and they should utilize those two more because they are so marketable, and Kacy has name recognition, which I think is really interesting. And then the other question related to this one, tying in with Xia Li, Derek's wondering if Xia Li's been written off of NXT. We saw a few weeks ago that she had a match with Raquel Gonzalez for the NXT Women's Championship, but we haven't really heard anything. And again, the dark match just happened. So where do we start here? Mari, how do you feel about these dark matches and potential call-ups with Ridge Holland, Xia Li, Kacy Catanzaro? We also saw Austin Theory, Aaliyah, and Dakota Kai in some of these dark matches. But thoughts?
I'm actually more like, I mean, let me answer that question, because when I saw Austin Theory was in a dark match, I was like, where has he been on NXT? Like, why isn't he still in the Candice Johnny Index storyline? So I was a little bit taken aback by that, but so we know the main roster does loopy things. I agree. I don't know why they broke up her and Kayden, because Derek is very right. We need tag teams, and they had pretty good chemistry. They stacked up really nicely together. But when you get to the main roster, they do things like separate Shotzi and Ember and throw in Tegan, you know what I'm saying? Or they separate what's his face from Scarlet. So
Karrion Kross.
Karrion Kross. So like it just doesn't really make sense when you get those main roster call-ups, and that's why people are, you know, dread when that happens sometimes. But I'm not surprised, to be quite honest. I'm really not surprised. I think Vince sees Kacy Catanzaro, he wants to build off her name and push her as a single star. So I'm disappointed but not surprised, I guess.
Yeah, but also it's the type of thing where, like, you know, I think Kacy and Kayden are still technically together, but like we're seeing with Austin Theory, he's kind of been pulled away from the Way storyline, but he has had a number of dark matches, so they're clearly looking at bringing him up. The same goes with Aaliyah, where we saw her actually, like, I would say very definitively have her NXT send off, and
like a swan song.
Now they're kind of trying to figure out, like, probably what to do with her. It's really interesting to me to see Dakota Kai in the list of people in these dark matches, because she is phenomenal in NXT. But I mean, Vince wants what Vince gets, and this actually ties in with something like one of the news stories and things going around, which is just the tension between, I would say, a power struggle that they talk about. And I'm hesitant to talk about these things because a lot of this is just behind the scenes stuff.
Right.
It's like, what is one of the big questions? What's the purpose of NXT? Because is it developmental? Is it to have
a third brand
and Gargano and others who are established, or is it to build stars? And then if you're building stars, why have people who are smaller and not Vince McMahon's type, frankly, like under 6 feet and not huge and not big characters and not charismatic? So a lot of that is going on, and something that you kind of referenced is just there's a major disconnect between what happens in NXT, what happens on the main roster, and then like even the releases that we saw last week.
We've been talking about it,
we've been seeing all year. So it's a wild time for WWE.
Yeah, questions about, is Triple H still running the third brand, stuff like that. It's
apparently not. I mean, apparently, but like, you know, if people are getting released, they're getting released. And something that I heard was that he was like, they were calling people releasing them before he even knew that these people were being released.
I heard that as well.
Shawn Michaels too, who's very involved with NXT. So it's getting sloppy.
Which again makes sense. Like we've been talking about it. Like some of these releases just were out of the blue. So if you're telling me that they were releasing people before even telling Triple H, I believe it. But you know, it's all behind the scenes stuff, and you just never know until, you know, somebody breaks the silence or whatever.
So I mean, you know what? I think at the end of the day, like, more back to Derek's question, we can't really predict, like, maybe what we'll see going forward from Kacy will be great, and maybe Kayden will find her spot otherwise. Hopefully she finds her spot otherwise. I think we feel that way for everyone. Like, we want everyone to be employed and on TV and living their best wrestler lives. But, you know, there's really no telling what will happen. And it's hard to, like, I'm looking at this dark match, Xia Li and Aaliyah versus
Dakota Kai
and Kacy. And Xia and Aaliyah defeated Dakota and Kacy in the dark match. And, like, who knows? Maybe if those two teams were actually made into teams and called up, maybe that would be phenomenal. But it's just strange
pairings.
Shit. Like, especially when you see stuff working in NXT, it's kind of baffling when, like, you pull Austin Theory away from something that's like really fun and it was one of the highlights.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it does kind of feel like pettiness and spite, like, you know what I'm saying, like Vince McMahon is just
you think Vince
doing
just
stuff for
like,
pettiness and
what's Alex from BB19 just with like the petty hat on and
petty, like
I'm picturing him Vince with his little petty hat.
But also, you know, you gotta remember that, you know, they're back on the road again too. So you know Dakota might be on the road because her partner may be on the road. You know what I'm saying? Keith Lee had a squash with a local talent for SmackDown, which means hopefully, you know, Mia, we know Mia's on SmackDown now as well. So you got to think of the families, you got to think of all of that. So I'm here for it. Xia Li being written off, I guess, because didn't the last time we saw like a Tian Shaw in what's his name? Oh gosh, I forgot the Boa. Yes, thank you. We saw they did something the other week together, just the two of them. So if I remember correctly. So I guess we'll see. I guess we'll really see. Thank you so much for those questions, Derek. We really, really appreciate it. And so you can always send us questions in the Job Has a Squadcast Facebook group, where it's Matt knows it's the unofficial official RHAP patron wrestling group. You can always send us any long form email questions to wrestling@RHAPhasAwebsite.com. And you can join the conversation on Twitter using hashtag Wrestling RHAPup. And then, of course, tag us at Wrestling RHAPup on Twitter as well. I just did the plugs. So, I think it's your turn. To do the awesome guest.
The introduction.
Yeah, so quickly.
Time?
Look at me.
Oh my gosh.
I just did that so quickly.
I'm ready for this. You just did it. Okay. Well, I think I could do this. Let's get this throat ready. Okay. It's horrible.
It's okay.
Phrase. Okay.
It's all right.
Making her way to the podcast. The three-time Wrestling RHAPup guest from the T-Dot, the T.O., the Big Smoke, Hogtown, the Six, Hollywood North, Little York, and the home of such icons, wrestling icons as Trish Stratus, Christian Cage, Edge, Gail Kim, Joe E. Legend, and Rocky Johnson. The scholarly, sophisticated, spectacular, sensational, stupendous, stellar, Stella Scuseyou, a.k.a. the gifted, gleeful, grounded, glistening, glorious, graceful, gracious, the great Grace Leeder!
Wow. Excuse me? No, Stella Scuseyou. Wow, that was
Can
amazing.
You breathe?
That's a lot.
Yeah. Are you lightheaded?
A little. I had to hold back a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
Because I wouldn't have made it through. Grace, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, I was going to say, Matt catches his breath.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Grace. Thank you for being here. Also, you can watch us on YouTube at Rob Has a Podcast on YouTube to see our glorious, lovely faces. Grace, third time's a charm.
Oh, I am excited to be back. I'm always happy to be here joining you two to talk about professional wrestling. I'm excited.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. When we have the questions, when we want to deep dive into AEW, we call the big guns, the big dogs. We get the know-it-all. We get the librarian.
That's right.
We get Stella Scuseyou up in here.
Move over, Stephen Fishback, because Grace Leeder is here for the action.
It was good. I know
Stephen can come for the action too if he wants.
Yeah.
Grace, what you been up to since we last seen you? I mean, we all did the Big Brother 23 cast review podcast. That was so fun.
That was
a few months ago. How you been since then?
Oh, pretty good. There's been I've been watching a lot of Big Brother, but there's a lot of wrestling in the world
so much
right now. AEW added another show. And I'm like, no, please, you have 4 shows. It's too much. I don't watch 2 of them really, only if there's like something that piques my interest, but it's like there's so much wrestling in the world right now, but there is so much, I think, like intriguing backstage, people moving around. There's so much going on that it's also like keeps my interest when it's not on TV too. So yeah.
Exactly. So we might as well kind of just start right into it because, like Grace said, it's a lot to get into. So we'll start with our highlights of the week. Each week we go over wrestling clips throughout the week from all the different promotions: AEW, Raw, SmackDown. The clips can be found in a very nifty playlist, YouTube playlist that's in our show description or the podcast description. Either you're watching us on YouTube or listening, you can follow along as we go through. And we have to start with AEW. We have Grace here. We gotta go in deep. We gotta get down in there.
Yeah.
I felt like it. I did it. I felt like it.
It's good. We can get in there. We'll get deep. Yeah.
This is a great intro. We haven't even started the highlights yet.
Yes. Well, here you go. Here's our first highlight. So, spoiler alert, Christian Cage becomes the new Impact World Champion because he beat Kenny Omega on he beat Kenny Omega on Rampage.
Yeah.
That's right, he did.
He issued the challenge on Dynamite. Wow. I
feel like this felt like it came out of, I mean, not out of nowhere, but kind of out of nowhere, especially when you think of everything that was going on with Hangman Adam Page.
Yeah.
Grace, what's happening here?
Yeah, the world title scene on AEW is pretty funky right now. There's some stuff I really like, and then some stuff I'm like, so a few weeks ago there was the I think an 8-man tag, it might have been a 10-man tag where Adam where Hangman Page put his title on the line
game.
like the basketball game, which was only the Elite could come out basically as the Toon Squad and still be booed and
I would call Michael Jordan the Elite, maybe LeBron James, not Nick and Matt Jackson, but that's a whole other
I mean, that's the whole thing, right? They're ridiculous. They're all ridiculous. They think they're much cooler than they really are, right? And it's just I love them sort of being in this they're all these nerds. They're just nerdy guys who then now think they're cool. And I like what they're doing with the Elite, but yeah, so Hangman loses that match, and I think I thought they were setting up for an all-out an all-out match, that it would be Page versus Omega, and then all these rumors are coming of Daniel Bryan's coming, CM Punk is coming, and Hangman gets moved out of the title picture. He's at the bottom of the line, and I'm what is the momentum? That entrance, we talk about the basketball entrance, the Dark Order entrance with Page coming out, and there's not only is there a lot of TV to watch, there's also is it Beyond the Elite, whatever their YouTube thing is, there's a lot of good stuff in there as well. And in there they were he's I've always wanted a jacket with purple rose, this cool jacket, and then he comes out in the cool jacket with all of his new buddies. And so the Hangman Page stuff, there was a Twitter thread a little while ago of detailing, I think one thing AEW doesn't do phenomenally is give you the backstory on what's happening,
right?
But the Page stuff to me is probably the stuff I'm the most interested in wrestling at the moment.
That's what we said. That's what I said. I think we covered this 2 or 3 weeks ago. And as somebody who doesn't watch AEW that much, when I do watch, I root for Hangman Page, and to see him be shunted to the back of the list, it really it was really just it blew the wind out of my sail.
I don't know, go ahead.
I was just gonna add too, the other thing is, a couple months ago especially, I felt like I had a moment where it was our first time covering AEW. I'm blanking on who exactly or what the show was at this point. It was late, but the early June, late May show, whatever that was.
What happened?
It was 7 novelty shows in a row. So they had Fyter Fest and Full Gear, and then it was Homecoming, and then it was whatever. So if you're confused,
it was before all of those too.
Was it with Scott Yeager?
No, even before that. See, this is the thing that AEW does. They're throwing all these special shows at us, but this was actually, I think, a pay-per-view show. But anyway,
was it Double or Nothing? Was it Double or Nothing?
It was Double or Nothing, I think.
Yeah,
it must have been Double or Nothing. So but he looked like such a big star, and actually everyone kind of did to me watching that show, and that was the moment where, for me, Adam Page was oh, okay, this guy, I get him now. I get him as a star. I didn't really fully get him and wasn't bought in, but it's exciting to see how much people are on board with him. It is strange that we've kind of seen that momentum shift, but I also like that, like, if he's out for All Out and we're not going to see him there, then we're not going to see him there. And then the story will just have to pick up later. And I know that it'll pick up, but I actually also saw something about like Adam Page. Apparently his
had a baby.
Wife had a baby. Did he have the baby already?
I think they've had, or she's pregnant, I think. So it does kind of mix, and it's, no, here's the thing. I think she's due right around,
good luck.
Right around All Out was a thing that, like, so they were one, this is a thing I think I've seen it speculated much more than it's been like reported, is that there was a worry that like if she goes into labor during that weekend, he's going to see the baby. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, I mean, one of the things I think is really intriguing about the Adam Page stuff is that the storyline actually revolves a lot around mental health and insecurity and anxiety. This whole thing of like, he didn't really fit in with the elite. And so he leaves, but then he starts drinking alone by himself. And then the Dark Order comes to like sort of support him. And like, just because you failed doesn't mean you should give up. Like, it's a really interesting thing. And I think like Page is sort of a, you know, just him as a person and then him as a character, I think it's really intriguing. So I love that he's just like, you know, I can have a world title shot, but also I'm going to have a baby. So I'm going to go see my baby is born. So like, put me at the back of the line. I mean, there is this thing in wrestling, like there's a Rhodes finish, a dusty finish, right? Is the thing where like the good guy wins. And then it's like, oh, the ref didn't see it or there was interference. And then the bad guy ends up winning the title. Right. And I do feel like this continual, like, here's the rug. I think eventually it would be diminishing returns, but I still think whenever it happens, whenever Adam Page wins the world title, the roof will explode on the building where it happens. So I'm not super concerned that they've like chosen to go this path, and especially if it has something to do with him having a baby, I'm like okay with it. But it's this thing I'm so invested in. I think a lot of us are like, I want him to win. And then when he like loses, not even for the title, it's like, you don't get a chance at the title. We're all like, no. And that's like a good thing. That's like a good thing that they have like built.
So Grace, so Christian Cage beats Kenny for the TNA. He has
a TNA title on him. He had their titles are both. They have two titles, so
it always throws me off. Yeah, exactly. So does this open the door? Does Kenny losing this first title begin the downfall of him? Because the AAA one is coming up now soon too.
Tonight, the Saturday.
Okay, I thought
the night after Rampage. So he's fighting Andrade, and I'm surprised there hasn't been more of that like on TV. But I guess the AAA stuff isn't really available in America, so whether they're not feel like it's worth cross-promoting. But I do feel like I get the sense of what we're leading to, and I hope it eventually is Hangman Page. And actually, I hope it's not CM Punk who does it. But I want the slow, like the fall from grace, the like king who's losing his power. I want this from Kenny Omega, like holding on to that. The one title he'll have left as close to his chest with Don Callis freaking out in the background. Like that's where I see this going. And certainly they could buck with that trend. But I feel like in the same way, I feel like a lot of wrestling companies, like they tell you they kind of show you what they're doing.
They show you what's going to happen. Exactly. Yeah.
And I do think that's where we're headed of like, I was not sold on Christian being the challenger for the AEW title, and whether he still gets the shot at All Out I don't know if that's going to happen or not. He still is sort of like owed that title shot. So we'll see, but I don't know if I love that, but I do like this slow, like the clinging to the one last belt he has. Kenny Omega, Madman. Could be really fun.
It? Why is he owed that? He's the
number one ranked. He was number 2 and then he got bumped up. And so they've still said he has a title shot at All Out, but then there was also this thing where he got to challenge for the Impact title. And so whether they'll muck around with that a bit of like, oh, you have your shot, or somebody, he chooses to defend the Impact title at all, whatever. The thing that a lot of people think is that Omega might fight Punk at All Out. Yeah. I don't know if I love that for Punk's first moment, because he either has to win and then he's like at the top of AEW. That feels a little bit like undeserved, or he loses and he loses in his first match. So
in his hometown, right?
I don't know. The whole like
whole dusty finish,
the whole kind of main event thing. Yeah, I think they gotta wait for Page to be able to beat Omega. I think that's that's the most juice to squeeze from a story of Page winning and beating the guy who keeps taking it away from him. But
yeah, so I personally think that he will lose the AAA title here.
I think so
tonight, which would be again great, perfect. Then we get this Kenny Omega, who, like you said, is just so desperate. He will do anything to keep the last one. So I'm perfectly good with that. So Matt, you have extolled your love for Christian Cage on this podcast numerous times.
Me? Captain Charisma?
You. Yeah, you.
I like him.
So how did you feel about this?
You know what? The best comparison I could make with how I reacted to this was actually The Miz. The Miz earlier this year.
Oh my gosh! What is time?
At
Elimination
Chamber. Yes. Yeah. So it's like this moment where you perceive a character one way, and then something happens, and then it completely shifts. Like for me, from The Miz, it was like, oh, this guy's goofy. You can't be world champion anytime soon. They'd have to build him up this way, and then he wins, and then he comes out in the suits, and then it's really believable. And the moment that, I mean, Christian was in this feud, but especially the moment that he hit the kill switch onto the chair and pinned Kenny and got the win, like, and you hear the music, which is so familiar, you feel it, because I loved his TNA run as Christian Cage. That is that's definitely my favorite Christian Cage run. There were some great matches. He had a great match with Samoa Joe. Frankie Kazarian was another one, because Christian was also big on like building some of those other stars. I think he was probably arguably the biggest star at the time in the company. Kurt Angle was also there around the same time. And this was awesome. Like he is, like, in my mind at least, like the Impact champion. You could pull up a number of other names, like AJ Styles is an interesting one who's in that conversation. But Christian Cage, while he wasn't in Impact or TNA at the time that long, like, he really did something magical there. And I think it's cool to see that. I don't think of him as a WWE guy, especially because he's been gone from WWE since, and in-ring competition since since 2014, and then there was the Royal Rumble, but that was just kind of like an outlier situation this year.
Yeah.
So we also
sorry, Matt. We also got a question though, because we did get a match on Dynamite with Kenny Omega and the Bucks with Dante Martin was in it. So we got a question from Jacob, who asked, Dante Martin just had an impressive star-making performance on Dynamite. What are your all-time favorite similar moments of a wrestler coming from out of nowhere and just being truly incredible? So, yes, Dante Martin looked great in this. I literally, again, at first I watched the clip, I was like, I don't know who he is. And then I immediately was like, oh no, I know who it is. Yeah. This kind of reminds me of, like, of course, X-Pac or the 1, 2, 3 Kid getting the win, or like Razor Ramon at, like, out of nowhere type of feel. I'm trying to think of anything
I would give
similar.
You Jeff. It reminds me of Jeff Hardy Undertaker ladder match.
Oh, that's good.
2002. Like that's
nice.
I haven't watched that in a long time.
It's so
that's
good.
Definitely one of my favorites, and that's what immediately came to mind when I read this question. Just because you have like the stars. So in that case, it was the Undertaker, but in this case, like, literally everyone else in this match is, like, so established, especially if you look across the ring at Kenny Omega and the Bucks, the Elite. Like, you're being trusted by these people to compete with them and be on their level, and they did an amazing job helping get him over. But the athleticism from Dante Martin is, like, was really next level. Just lots of flips, some Simone Biles type of dismounts. Like, there was a Hurricane Rana
the top rope,
off the top rope
to the floor. Yeah, that's
to the floor. What is physics?
You know what? You know what it reminded me of? Do you remember it might have been a night after WrestleMania, but maybe I'm just misremembering because the crowd was so hot. But it's Cesaro. There's like I can't remember if it's an 8-man tag or like a 2 versus 2 versus 2 versus 2 or whatever. And Cesaro just like is bouncing around the ring, like uppercutting, and then he runs on the outside, and he's just doing like everything in this moment of like. And to me, it's a little bit like that. Like I think Cesaro was pretty he was in the WWE. He's like I think people knew him, but I think that was a moment of like, oh, this guy is like really, really good, and has basically just like stolen this whole the whole sequence was just like Cesaro is amazing. And to me, that's what that like the sequence felt like.
I think you're right. I think it was like a Raw after Mania, and I think like Cesaro had been like off of TV or something for a while when that happened. It was something like that. But yeah, great moment. You can also think of, to me, I kind of also think of like Ronda Rousey's WWE debut, because I honestly didn't think she was gonna be as good as she was in the debut. Now the rest of the year, we can talk about that. You know, there's some big question marks, but that debut with her and Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie was really, really good. And I honestly didn't see it coming. I really thought it was going to be okay, but it kind of stole the show for me, that WrestleMania. But then again, I was very pissed off at that WrestleMania.
There's definitely a pattern though with like these really established stars. I mean, now I'm even thinking this is maybe taking it even further, but it's like Bad Bunny this year at WrestleMania. Like, in someone with a bunch of other people who are really established and who probably respect them enough and like them enough to want them to shine, and it leads to this magic. So I agree. So many great comparisons.
Great.
I'm glad that you brought up the Ronda one.
So yeah, so Christian Cage is our Impact champion. Kenny is sans one belt. Dante Martin got a great little pop there. Who knows what happens? Because I think you said he was on Dark a lot there.
Grace? He's been on Dark a lot. He's in a tag team. I think it's Top Flight, and I think his tag team partner has been injured. So he's just been doing some single stuff, and I think this was a cool moment to put him in there and let him show his stuff. But he definitely seems like a guy who, he could get a TNT title shot out of, like, I could see that sort of momentum coming out of this, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited. He's really young.
He's only like 20 years old.
Yeah, he's super young.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah. You could tell. He looks like
he looks young. He's a little baby face.
But that's amazing. Where is he going to be in 5 years?
Yeah, really. Who knows? To jump to Christian for a second, I think I've been a little bit disappointed with Christian's run in AEW so far. It's been a little bit like, okay, he's having like good matches, but like nothing is like hooking me. And I hope that this is like the start of something that like really gives him some momentum. I like his little like thing with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, like with Jurassic Express. I think that could be fun. I think a Cage bad guy run against Jungle Boy could be interesting in the future, but I hope this like gives him a little bit of something to like sort of be able to like, I don't know, I feel like he's been spinning his wheels a lot. Maybe he can get some traction moving out of this, so we'll see.
Right. Sorry, keep going, Matt.
No, I was just gonna even point out like the Matt Hardy Christian stuff that was going on. Like I wasn't into that. That is
I hate the Matt Hardy office. I hate it.
I do too, actually.
It's so
I don't know. It is.
They've taken these people who like, I love everybody in that stable, and I'm like, I'm not interested at all to see you on TV. Like, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. But like, my only one question is before we move on, with Kenny. So Kenny has the AEW title. The one thing about this match, I really personally didn't like was they just kept saying the AEW championship is the most important. The AEW championship is the most important. Like they said that so many times during that match. I was like, well, dang, just crap on TNA. I mean, Impact and AAA. Like it like that. I didn't really like that, but I get it. But it's just kind of weird. So it brings me to my question of like, is this beneficial? So Impact, I'm so sorry, guys. I keep wanting to call it TNA.
That's fine.
I'm staring at the belt. But like, so the Impact champion, again, is signed to AEW. If Andrade wins AAA, he's also signed to AEW. So is this, I don't watch Impact. I just don't have the time. There's just too much. How is this helping them at all?
I do think so. I think in terms of like AEW is, you know, TNA, when they brought in Hogan, they moved to Monday nights, and like we're doing the Monday Night War. Like they've tried forever to be, they wanted to be what AEW is right now, and they never were able to. And I think that's okay for them to be like what they are at the moment of like this, like, you know, they have a presence, I think, sort of nationally, but they're not this like huge thing. And to sort of, I think, be attached to AEW, and you know, they've got to have Kenny Omega on their pay-per-views. Now they get to like run some storylines with Christian, who is embedded in the history of Impact and TNA. I think is interesting. And eventually at some point, one of their own stars will beat Christian. And that's a moment that they can take, no matter how much they say, you know, on AEW TV, they say we're superior, we're better. And I think they're doing that probably to feed into what I assume is the Kenny storyline, which is this is the belt. It's fine. You take all those ones. I don't like what, because he's lying. He's like lying. He does care about the other belts, but as long as he has this one, he can like assure himself that it's fine. And so like, is it the best? I don't know. Let Kenny be the one to say that, I think, and not maybe your commentators or whatever. But I do think it helps. I do think it helps them. And
I was thinking about well, really about TNA and Impact Wrestling, like that evolution and what we've seen. And that is like, honestly, I think in retrospect, especially, it's like one of the most interesting companies because they really did a great job establishing themselves in the 2000s. And then they hit that mark. I'll never forget January 4th, 2010 was the day, the Monday Night War that they had. And it was Hogan debuting and all these other people debuting. And that was kind of like, that was actually really interesting. And you know what? Actually, Matt and Nick Jackson as Generation Me were on that show too. So really interesting. And then it dipped down. And then now TNA's or Impact Wrestling is at this point where they're really focused on, let's have all these collaborations with different groups. So I think last week we referenced Mickie James and the NWA Power show going on, and they've done some cross promotion there. And so it's an interesting strategy, but it should be really interesting to see like how it does help out Impact. I feel like it's a much more like attractive company than it's been in the past. And you know, there were a lot of times where people thought that that Impact and TNA in the different incarnations would be dead. So they're still around. Really surprising and impressive, and arguably at their best.
Yeah, exactly. So we also got Britt Baker came out on Dynamite to address her hometown crowd because both Dynamite and Rampage were in Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this week. She gave a really nice promo. Guys, I might need one of you to talk about it because as an avid Baltimore Ravens fan, it really, I cannot give the city of Pittsburgh props. So
wait, where's my yellow towel?
You don't need to give.
Don't do that.
Give Pittsburgh props. The person who deserves all the props in this is Britt Baker, who is establishing herself as an incredible character, professional wrestler. She has not changed that much in terms of going. She's sort of flip-flopping between being a babyface and a heel. I guess maybe she's like Christina, right? She was fighting Red Velvet. Looks like she might be up against. She's fought Nyla Rose. Looks like Chris Statlander is probably her next opponent. But like the relationship even with like Tony Schiavone, who is like, you know, sort of this baby face, you know, this guy that we love. He's always like, you know, ranting against all the, you know, the bad guys who are doing bad things. He hates MJF. Right. And then they hug every time. Like they have this relationship that was like very antagonistic at the beginning. If you remember back to Britt and Tony, but I don't, it's so cool to just see someone like slip into and find who their character is, and then for it to be like so just like well received, and like the whole thing, it's, to be honest, it's very Adam Cole like, which I know that they're dating, and it's not that she's like she is so different than Cole, but the energy of like DMD and like Baby is like there's like this like synergy that I feel like, and it's really cool to see. And like I have been on here multiple times, the other two times being like, AEW doesn't do enough with their women. I don't think they do enough with their women, but like, holy cow, Britt Baker is like a superstar.
Yeah, she's stunning.
Yeah, she is. Amazing. And the other piece of it too is just
talented.
Yeah, spectacular.
Yeah.
But the other thing is like, she's Pittsburgh personified. It seems like, or at least that's how they positioned her.
Present it, yeah.
You know, and all I could think is like, what a star, because 2 different nights they put her in that spot where she could just shine and be that star. And I wonder, like, would WWE do that? I feel like WWE does, well, one, you know, they do a lot of jobbing. They have in the past done a lot of jobbing out their stars when they're in their hometowns and don't make a huge deal of it. I do kind of wonder if there's a thing within WWE where they kind of want to keep it like almost evergreen, where it's like, sure, we're in Pittsburgh, but like, we're not going to make a big deal of that because the people who are watching globally like don't care, which I don't think is true. And AEW is really embracing the hometown with this, and I hope that they'll keep doing this because like the fans care. It would obviously be a different experience at the show if, you know, Britt just kind of comes out and does her thing and maybe doesn't cut the very Pittsburgh promo and doesn't wear the Pittsburgh gear and doesn't win and defend the championship in the main event and all that stuff. And it's just like, I loved it. And I love what, you know, we give credit to Britt for this, but also I'd give so much credit to AEW for like putting her in this spot twice in 1 week. And I hope they do more of it.
Yeah, and I mean WWE always has the opposite, right? They'll tell you that the wrestler is from there, but more than likely you're like, oh man, they're about to lose. Like that's become the thing with them. It's like they overcorrected to like, oh, like I remember, I will never forget Hell in a Cell, Sasha versus Charlotte in Boston, and her losing. It like it shakes me to my core. I hate it. And they do that every time, you know, Bailey's from San Jose. Like, you know where these people are from because they'll tell you just so they can get cheap heel heat to get beat. So
I feel like it, you know, I think about the Dante Martin thing. I think about the Sasha or the Britt Baker like promo and then the match. I do feel like there's a like fundamental difference in terms of trying to build stars. That WWE wants their stars to be WWE superstars, that you are part of the brand, that when you leave, like, you know, look at all these releases that they've had, including people that a lot of people think is like they've been wasted, but it's like, I don't know, as long as they are WWE forever, they can, you know, fill their card with whoever and they'll be successful, is a little bit how I feel. And I just feel like AEW has, I don't know, I think they've done a good job at like, you know, when Britt Baker comes out, it's the Britt Baker show. It's not, it feels, it, you know, more so sometimes it feels like, okay, this is AEW Dynamite, whereas like, it's like this WWE superstar is, you know, whatever. So I don't know. It's a difference there. You know, there's a lot of stuff on WWE, and I think WWE has made many more stars than people will give them credit for. You know, look at Roman Reigns. You look at what the reactions that John Cena gets when he returns now, for as much as people like booed him. But I don't know. I think the stuff with Britt is really good.
Yep, and she went on to win against Red Velvet on Rampage in the first ever main event, which was a women's main event in Rampage, and she won. It was great. Yeah. So good for Britt Baker. Like I really do like her. I'm rooting. I'm cheering for her. We need more women on these multiple shows. Hopefully we get more and more now that they're getting more televised shows. If you're watching the YouTube, Matt is showing a clip of Britt Baker doing the lockjaw on Red Velvet.
Chris Statlander looks like to be set up as the new #1 contender. Had a really good match with Nyla Rose last week. I was surprised to see her win, and she pulled out this really cool 450. So I'm excited to see that. And at the end of the match, they had Jamie Hayter, who's been around, done some, I think, NXT stuff, was on some AEW stuff, but his return is sort of what seems to be Britt's lackey in a sense. So I mean, they're doing some stuff, maybe not as much as I'd like, but
that was just strange to me.
It was a weird ending.
Really weird ending.
She just came out and they came out of nowhere. It was
I looked at. There was a second where I was like, because I had it on. I was doing something else. And I knew I was going to rewatch it, but I had it on mute, and I was like, is that Becky Lynch? And then I was like, nope, it's not Becky Lynch. It's somebody totally different. And then I was like, I don't even know who that person like really is. Like, and then I like looked her up and was like, oh, she's been in stuff and she has a reputation. But I was like, that's how they're gonna end the first Rampage chat. Like, okay, all right, you know.
Yeah, very, very, yeah. confusing.
I saw some theories that Rampage, with its time slot, that they might always do the big match first. And so even though the Britt Baker match is the main event, having a 10 o'clock time slot, you want to like, it's like come tune in right at 10 o'clock and watch Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega. And that could be a pattern that they keep of like the big thing goes on first because to get you to tune in. But we'll see.
Not surprised at that. Yeah. Yep.
AEW, I feel like in general, just like to comment on this again, like they do a good job. There's a lot of long-term storytelling where like in one sense you're like, oh man, like I wanted Page to have his championship match at All Out, but I'm not getting that yet, but I know I'm gonna get it, but I'm not getting it yet. So that's like the downer. But then the other thing that they balance that out with, that long-term storytelling, is like these great moments that just make people feel good. Like I feel like maybe it's that simple. Like AEW loves to make their fans feel good is the vibe that I've been getting, because I've been feeling good. Like this is all really positive. So I wish WWE wanted to like make their the fans make us feel good, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Okay, so next we had Chris Jericho's 4th labor. We didn't talk about it last week, but his 3rd labor last week was he had to go over on Juventud Guerrera. I can never say it.
The juice.
Yes, the juice. Juvie. Yeah, Juvie. Yeah. So and the whole stipulation was do a maneuver from the top rope. So Jericho hit him a juice effect from the top rope. Won. MJF, Wardlow came out, beat up Jericho. MJF announced that it would be Jericho versus Wardlow for the 4th labor, and that MJF was what was MJF's role in it? Like
he was like the enforcer or something.
Yeah,
because I remember he announced last week, when he announced the 4th labor, he announced, and I'm gonna be there at the ringside. So it seems like there's a little bit of like desperation where he's like, I need to be more hands-on with this because these labors are not going well. But then again, someone should tell MJF this is pro wrestling. We're gonna get the match.
I know.
MJ.
That's what I'm saying.
So I have to say, so the Wardlow match, it was a decent enough match. It's pretty, it's pretty astonishing that they've been able to build like 5 weeks worth of Chris Jericho matches in 2021 to be like, pretty entertaining. I'll give them credit because Jericho, he's great, one of the best of all time, but he's getting up there. I will say the Wardlow match fine. I like that Jericho had to cheat to beat Wardlow. I think that like protects Wardlow a little bit, but my gosh, to say we knew it was coming, we knew the MJF match was coming, but for him to say you can't use the Judas effect and also you can't have your music is so brilliant, because what's going to happen next week is Jericho's going to come out and everybody's going to start singing his freaking song, and it's going to be incredible. Like they'll sing him to the ring, and it's like wow, like to have this little Jericho's like, MJF be like, you can't even have your music, and it's like they sing along with the music. Like I'll suspend my disbelief that MJF doesn't know what's happening, but like it's gonna be a cool moment. I love it. An entrance is gonna get me like super excited next week.
I'm excited because I like picture the experience being in person and just because it's not gonna be like, okay, Chris Jericho's coming out, we're singing the Judas effect there, or Judas, the song Judas. There are gonna be so many. They're just going to be singing that all night, I think. Like maybe before the show starts, just to warm up their vocal cords. Maybe someone's going to pass them sheet music and lyrics.
My wonder is how they're going to get all on the same page. Like how they're going to know that they all need to start it. Is he going to like, I don't know. They need to like sort of give some cue, I imagine, because my worst fear is that it will be really, they think it's going to be really cool. And then it's like everybody's at different, it's like
different
around
sections. That always happens. Oh my God. Like every wrestling show you go to, stuff like that always happens. The audience can never get on one accord. So who knows?
He sing it? Is he allowed to sing the song?
I don't know. Sammy used to sing his entrance music, right? They could have Sammy start it and then everybody else starts singing it.
So I guess we'll see. That should be fun, like you guys said. Finally, we're gonna get this match. Do you think MJF ends up winning, or do you think Chris Jericho wins?
I'll even like Grace. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this, but I kind of like does it matter? Like this whole thing, it feels like the journey has been like more dramatic than the destination. It's like But I mean, what? Yeah, Grace.
I personally, I want MJF to win just because, like, I like MJF. Yeah,
I mean, I do too.
Yeah, I mean, MJF could certainly use a win much more than Jericho could use a win. On the other hand, I know that like Jericho's just had like 4 weeks of getting one up on MJF basically because he's like overcome each labor. But also like the last time those two like MJF literally threw him off the cage at Blood and Guts or whatever. So I do feel like the story is probably Jericho getting this moment, and MJF can weasel off and end up wherever he's going to end up next, whoever he's feeding. I really hope this is the end. I could see them doing one more Pinnacle Inner Circle thing because like we still have. I mean, there was the big fight at the end of the show. We still have FTR and oh my gosh, Pride and Powerful, like they are still seemingly have a match coming up. But
wait, have they picked a name in AEW? Is it Pride and Powerful?
I think they're like Synth Energies, and they also like for a while they were Pride and Powerful. It's a kind of a bad name, but that's their entrance music too.
But I just have to stop myself from calling them LAX.
I know. Yeah. But anyway, I don't know. I sort of hope that like if they each sort of have one more blow off match between the little rivalries that's happening, that we don't need another big one. Like they already did Blood and Guts, but I don't know. It's hard to believe this has gone on for this
long. And because you want to see them move on and interact with the rest of the roster. So yeah, I like I said, I hope MJF wins. I hope all of this was just like a softening Jericho up, and MJF does end up getting the last laugh. But that's just my personal opinion because I've said it on this podcast so many times. I do appreciate when the older stars try and get the younger ones over more than anything. MJF doesn't really need it because he's over as well. But I just think it would be so funny. Like, and then we get to hear MJF talk about how he beat Jericho over and over and over and over and over again. Some more. So I'm good. I mean, that's just me. But I think either way, like Matt said, it's kind of the destination here and not the journey for this storyline.
Yeah.
So we got to go into our final AEW storyline we're going to cover. Malachi Black. So this week he just had his promo, but we want to go back to last week because we had to cut a lot of stuff out, and we're so glad that we have Grace here to really go in depth on AEW. So last week Malachi Black made his in-ring debut against Cody. Of course, the tensions had been building up for a few weeks, and they finally went toe to toe last week. First of all, we got to talk about his entrance, his first AEW entrance. I mean, it was great, but it's so hard to really outdo his first the NXT entrance, and then the song Evil. Like I loved his entrance so much in NXT. So this one, I just mourn his original one, but this wasn't bad. This is definitely better than what he had in Raw.
I love his look. I love the purple face paint. I like the hood that has like horns on it.
He had
I think it's really
ears.
I think it's really cool, and I think that like it seemed like he had some plans. I think right before he was released, that it seemed like he was going to do some stuff with Kevin Owens, and it feels like this is a little bit.
This is it.
I've joked a little bit that like I think that sometimes people leave WWE and it's like, oh, so much wasted talent, and then I give a lot of credit to WWE for like knowing who they have on their roster, and there are a few examples of where you're like Miro. I think before he started to like break out into this like God's favorite champion or whatever, I was like, this is what we like want. This is the guy we like thought was like being. I was like, this is not that good, and I think Miro's really stepped into his own.
I heard that.
I think sometimes people leave, and then you're like, yeah, I see. Like Damian Sandow is someone who I think people were like, he has so much potential, and then he's kind of like been around, and he's like funny, but he's not this like superstar. I think that people like make him out to be.
But
I do think that like Malachi Black, like you look at what just the way his brain I think is working and thinking about what his character is and who he is. I really like this character. I think it's so cool.
And I love the eye.
I think gets me every time.
The black eye.
Yeah, that
should be his finisher, by the way. Like the black eye.
White. I mean, that's what he'd be given. Yeah, that's what he gives people when he, So I did again. I just loved his song, back in NXT. I just remember like shouting it out and yelling. But that was an actual like artist. Those were actual artists.
Yeah,
who made that
he might be able to get it at some point. I will say we're not going to talk about Paul White, but like, did they ever nail getting the like essence of the Big Show's theme?
Oh my god!
It's like basically the exact like, it's like not the Big Show theme, but it's like enough that you're like, oh, that's the Big Show. Yeah,
because that was one of the clips I was watching and I was packing, and I heard, I was like, well, and I was like, wait a minute.
Okay. Also, while we're on this tangent, we don't need to talk about QT, but QT Marshall picking on Tony Schiavone's adult son is hilarious. It's so funny. It's so funny. This guy is like probably like 30. He has a big beard. I guess he wants to be a wrestler, but for him to be like, I'm gonna beat up your adult son and punch him in the gut is like it's hilarious to me. It's so weird. It's like a bully, but he's like not bully. He's like literally picking on someone his own size. It's hilarious. Anyway, Malachi Hall is amazing. I love the match with Cody. I mean, I see on the internet a lot. There's this thing about like, I think people at the beginning of AEW were like, how come the like all the elite guys are not like putting themselves over? Like they are the stars here. Like they were losing a lot. And Cody was the one who was like not doing that. And now I think that they are doing it like to an immense degree. The Kenny Omega and the Bucks are like, they go over a lot. And it's funny because now people are like, oh, they push themselves too much. It's like they're never going to win. Cody has had this interesting thing, right? Since he gave up the title shot to lose to MJF, he has not been able to like be around there. And he's had these like matches with, he had it with Brody and he had it, Darby, he put over Darby, and so now he had this match with Malachi Black where he like put him over, except then at the end he like gets up from the beatdown that he's been like he lost handedly, and then he gives this like speech. I wish they drew it out a week. I wish that he like had been knocked out. He comes out this week and is like that gives the rousing speech like this is what you mean to me, I'm done. He like has his boots or whatever, puts him down, and then Black like hits him, because I just feel like it undermined what Black did, I think last week, to like immediately get up. And I know he like was like woozy or whatever, but it's like, you're going to give this like rousing speech after you just got your like butt kicked. I don't know. But
I agree with that.
Yeah. And I think the thing I would add to that you're making me think of, Grace, is that there's so much to be said just for time. And I'm sure there's some like wise quotes about like how your time and attention, like, and even like people talk about like where you spend your money, like that shows what you care about. Where you spend your time, that shows what you care about. Well, this is one of the situations where it's just like, give the Bucks and Kenny and Cody like a little less time, and then use that time, like give that time to other people to build them. That's the part that I don't love. It's just that there's a little bit too much of them, and then we don't see some of the stars that I'm sure that we would love to see. Like I'm a Sonny Kiss fan, but like, like tentatively, because we haven't gotten like anything really that's like, oh, I could really truly root for this guy in character, or in the product.
Yeah. The only thing I disagree about the Bucks and Omega is that they're supposed to be such jerks that like when they lose, it will be worth it for them to like hog the screen time. I think it's like playing into exactly the perfect thing about it. But Cody is the good guy. Like he's supposed to be the good guy here. Like I hated the Anthony Ogogo setup. I'm an American like stuff. Like you look at like what Ogogo does in his like life. He's like quite a hero actually. He's a really good dude. And then so like I don't know. It's just the Cody stuff feels. I don't want him to feel like Triple H, and I feel like I keep trying to be like he's not early 2000s Triple H, and then he like gets up at the end of being knocked out and is like AEW whatever, and I'm like Triple H. Okay, and I'm like I really want to defend you, man. Like just like give it some time, give it some space, let the story breathe. You don't need to like get up and give the speech now.
He said we're not an alternative anymore. We're competition. And
I'm sorry. Sledgehammer on the throne. It's like, come on, Cody. Like, just like,
I was really like, this is like a circle jerk right now. Like, honestly, I was. It really was. I was just like, I get it, but we are just pandering here. And again, I don't know. I got it. I think he is supposed to be going away, right, because of his daughter and all of that.
Yeah, I don't know. His baby was born in June, so like, he could be now going away and spending time now that maybe she's been. I don't know.
I don't know.
I wouldn't mind a little. Give him a little break. I think this is a thing we see a lot where, like, again, time, let things breathe. So, like, let him go away. And so when he comes back, it's a cool thing. You know?
We did get a question from Mike Edwards last week about this. So we'll read it here. Did you buy Cody's retirement at all? How long is he out? Does he just turn around and face Black again at All Out? Yeah. Will he just turn around and face Black at All Out?
I think my best response to that is I bought Mark Henry's retirement in the salmon suit, but
so you can't answer this question.
So that, well, I mean, no, that was really well done. This was not that. Like, obviously Cody wasn't retiring. Like, if anything, he's stepping away for a little bit, which I feel, I mean, which very well might happen. Question mark, kind of. I don't know. So
he's clearly not retiring.
I didn't buy it
right.
I wouldn't mind, like, Malachi Black mentioned the word God in his promo, which makes me think, ooh, are they going Miro, Malachi Black, God's favorite champion, and then Malachi Black is calling himself God, basically. I think that could be interesting. It's an interesting story. I don't want Cody to come. So this was the Brody Lee thing where, Brody like demolished Cody and beat him. And then it was like, what, like less than a month later that Cody comes back and gets his win back. To me, I would like to see build Malachi as just like, I know Cody's the good guy, but like make him a little bit afraid of fighting Malachi Black. Like, you know,
again,
let him I don't want to fight him. He's going to knock me out again. You know, like not that clear. I think give him some space, build up Malachi as this guy. And then eventually down the road, you can have Cody, you know, whatever way he needs to find the nerve, you know, to fight Black. But I don't think we need it right away because I just worry that Cody gets his win back and it sucks a lot of the air out of Malachi Black.
And All Out is in what, 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's September 5th, I think.
5th, the weeks. Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
So I
think that's too soon. I think that's too soon.
That definitely seems too soon. Totally. Yeah. All right. Okay, so that's it for our highlights on AEW. Again, all the highlights, clips, the playlist can be found in our show notes and our show descriptions below. And let's move on. Okay, so my favorite show, unabashedly. So, like, it's. I'm not gonna lie to the people. I gotta give the people what they want.
You don't have to lie.
Lie to the people.
I've been lying this whole time.
I don't even know what wrestling is.
I've never watched a second of wrestling in my life. All the things I'm saying, I'm reading directly from Reddit.
I read everything from Facebook comments.
Facebook comments.
Not the Facebook comments. Smackdown.
I'm try and slip in a Facebook comment during this next, and you see if you can find it.
Is it Grace or is it a Facebook comment?
It's both. It was Grace's Facebook comment.
Yeah, it's me. It's just me commenting.
It was me all along, Austin. So we gotta get to SmackDown, and of course we're gonna start with the Bianca and Sasha contract signing. You love a good contract signing.
I love a contract signing, and I love when it's legally sound.
Yes,
all the lawyers and attorneys and legal assistants and just really just people who like to sue people. I'm here for you because I want to make sure that you're represented on WWE TV. And yeah, we got the contract signing, and I think it was legally sound pretty much. They did sign the contract.
We get Sonya Deville in there in her authority figure role, announcing the match. Very, very good announcement there. Asking them to come down to the ring. We get Sasha first. God damn it, Sasha Banks. Why do you do this? Why do you do this? Between Sasha, Bianca, Sonya, and then even when Zelina and Carmella came out, I was like, this is just too much. You know, I don't like to talk about the women, you know, but like this, but they were gorgeous, man. These were some gorgeous women
objectify them.
I can't help it when it's that much in the ring. Like, it doesn't matter like how you feel, like that they just all look so great.
Yeah,
Sonya Deville did a great job. I love how Pat McAfee on the booth here,
he's really good.
Amazing. He's like, oh, contract signings always go well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get Bianca and Sasha. Their back and forth is so good. This is, I feel like this is what people wanted leading up to WrestleMania. You know, people kept saying like the feud isn't hot enough. It doesn't warrant the main event. To me, this is them. This is the hotness. This is what they have now. Sasha's come back with a vengeance. She's come back. Like, what's more diabolical than like long black gloves? Like
long black gloves.
Like long black.
I thought you said black glove, and I was like, black love is not diabolical.
No. Oh my God, Matt. Long black gloves. I couldn't tell if they had like the fingernails attached to them, but like just so diabolical. Sasha's, you know, she brought back her old music. Remember, people got really hyped for the 2 hours that she was a face when she first came back, and she had her original music. She has her heel music back, and this contract signing was just good. They were going back and forth, dropping jabs. I love Bianca here, because this is how I love my babyface champions books. Bianca is like, I'm not afraid. Like, all you had to do was ask. We can do it. And then, like I said, Sasha was about to sign, but she called Carmella and Zelina as her witnesses, which again, Pat McAfee on the call.
Yeah.
When he said, oh, witnesses, there's like thousands of people.
It's like, thank you for pointing out the obvious. I needed that. I needed that, because you know I would have gone on and on about that on this podcast. So thank you, Pat McAfee. And speaking of looking great, I feel like, you know, when this is one of the things that I love. I love when like outfits fit together. So I felt like Carmella showed up in her outfit with like the sparkles, and then Zelina showed up in her black outfit, and they were like, okay, let's switch tops or switch.
Yeah,
like, just switch one outfit, and that literally, if that didn't happen, they could be a tag team now.
I almost thought they
do love. I love a tag team who wears matching gear but not the same gear. Exactly. So I very much feel this. Yes.
Actually, this is also a thing that bothers me. Like when I'm out and I see a couple, and it's like, you should be wearing their shirt and you should be wearing their pants. Like, but it's great. It worked. That's
you tell them. Do they often swap?
I do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just for me, just for like my slight OCD tendencies, I guess. That's it.
To talk about Pat McAfee, I think he's really great. I like the you know, what are we doing here? Like, you know, be self-referential. It's great. Like this thing. And I think like there was a while there where I thought a lot of like WWE bad guys were often saying like the truth. And to me, it's like, no, let them have these like beliefs that like are not true, and then have someone eventually call them out on it. Right. Like that's the reason they're a bad guy. And I do love this. Like, she's like, yeah, I have to have my witnesses. I feel like, you know, years ago they'd be like, yeah, she needs her witnesses. And then it's like, no, there are thousands of people in the arena. Like, I think it's great. He's really good.
Yes, it was it was really good. Yeah, so much good logic there. And it just like most contract signings do, it really dissolved into chaos. But I loved, again, I just loved the acting here kind of from Bianca, because before she signs the paper, she's kind of like looking back and forth. She's like, oh hell, like she knows what's about to happen.
She's like, why didn't I just zoom into this one? Like,
yes, this could have been an email.
Like it literally could have been like, just sign on Adobe and you're good.
Yes, DocuSign here.
DocuSign. She's looking back and forth, and she's like, okay. She signs the contract, throws the contract in Sasha's face. You know, goes after Zelina, hits Carmella. She clears the ring for just 2 seconds before Sasha gets the upper hand. Her and Zelina and Carmella start to beat up on Bianca, and it was just like, I was like, no. It's just like one of those moments where the good guy is getting beat up, and I was really like, can somebody in the back come out? Who's gonna help Bianca? Like, it was so good. It was so well executed. If you're watching our YouTube, you'll see Sasha executed a backstabber, then did a bank statement on the contract table using Bianca's hair and just looking just so devious and it was good. It was great. And we have Sasha standing over Bianca holding the title. Just a great segment here. It really was. And I'm really hoping we have like one more week. So again, I would love if like Naomi and Liv come to help Bianca. That could be a great way to kind of segue, like get them on like if they're still good guys. I think they're still good guys. And then segue into a 3-on-3. What?
I mean, you would.
That'd be amazing, right?
Yeah, but then now I'm like, wait, what happened to Liv Morgan? Where's she been?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Yeah, I don't know.
Where's
Naomi? We might just get Bianca versus one of them with the rest of them next week. But yeah, I do think. I mean, I don't always love like all the good guys get together, all the bad guys get together. But, and especially Bianca being the champ, it's like people okay,
nobody wants to help the champ, right,
but if you just do that and let Sasha become the champ, then like anyway, no, it's really fun segment. It's really good. I wonder, I'm intrigued by like what happens at SummerSlam. Who walks home? I really don't know. I don't know. Clue. I felt the same way at WrestleMania. I was like, I could see either of them winning. I do think that like whichever one of them remains the champ, I think there's rumors of has it been confirmed there's a draft in the fall? September, October.
I don't know if it's been confirmed, but it's still the rumors, definitely very heavy rumors that like I think it was supposed to be right after SummerSlam, and then now they're saying early October, but WWE is not going to tell us anything.
Yeah, I think like I'm not bored of this. I don't think I'll be like bored of it after SummerSlam. I get worried about like pushing it into the fall of like, I guess they've already done Hell in a Cell this year, right? So I guess they're not going to like, I don't know what they have planned for the fall in terms of what
that's so true
stipulation pay-per-views they're going to have or whatever. But I do think like it might make sense to, this is a thing I learned at summer camp is like when the kids are enjoying a game, you pull it, you stop the game at the moment they're having the most fun so that game isn't ruined for you. It's like, oh, we've played that game a million times. And I would sort of feel
I think that's how it works.
Yes. No, 100%. It is. If you have this like thing, if you have this game in your pocket that you like, that people like, you don't set right at the moment, but like don't oversaturate that they play it for 2 hours and they never want to play it ever again. You like it is
so funny.
It is a real thing.
Evil,
right?
But I just think in this moment of like, there's so much there. No, but they'll get to do it again. It's just that they don't need to do it right now.
Are you sure?
I think move them away for a little bit and then
lots of traumatic memories of having games taken away.
Snatch it.
No, you just stop it.
In the midst of the fun, like just.
And then you have something else that's fun to do. So,
this is gonna be interesting. I don't know if you're trying to suggest one of them would get drafted away from their brand. I really hope not, because it really feels like they just. Bianca just got to SmackDown. It feels like she just hit her stride. I don't think Fox is giving up Sasha anytime soon because the ratings went right back up past 2 million when she came back. So, and right now it seems like WWE is gearing more towards trying to keep Fox happy. So,
and Raw is boring as well.
That too. Oh my God, Raw is hot garbage. So so that's why I don't wish anybody to go to Raw. I hope all my favorites come to SmackDown so that I can watch the bare minimum of the Raw. So I don't know. I don't know how we do this, but I think Zelina and Carmella being with Sasha it instantly does elevate their profiles in a way, because before Sasha came back, we were talking about how SmackDown had no really good, like they didn't have built up heel women. And so we had Carmella first come and lay the groundwork, and then we had Zelina, and then Sasha comes, and now three of them, they look very badass together, and it all it does is raises their profile. So then now we can get the babyface, and this is what I mean, like maybe they don't have to be inserted into this storyline specifically, but then we can get the babyface, so we can get Liv Morgan and get Naomi in here to start building some goodwill and stuff. Maybe we get Naomi versus Sasha.
Give me a badass women's stable though, right? Like when is what is the last one we've like had? I'm struggling to think of. Like they tried to do that thing when like they sort of called up the women. They were doing, they were all these in like separate things, but none of it. Yeah, but none of it really worked. But like, yeah, give me like a badass women's stable. I think like Sasha, Zelina, and Carmella is an interesting powerhouse trio that could like run Smackdown for a bit.
Or at least last week we had a question about maybe putting Naomi with Tamina since Natalya may be out for a while.
Yeah.
And maybe them be the tag team, but Tamina and Natalya were bad guys basically.
I get so disappointed that like I don't love to like think about these ideas for Naomi because then when WWE doesn't do them, I'm just more disappointed.
You're so pessimistic.
So
when it comes to Naomi, when it comes to Naomi,
because you're always putting out the great ideas, and then WWE and Vince is like, "Oh, Mari said it. Well, can't do
Let's
that
do
now."
the opposite.
Yeah,
exactly.
Stay home. But
so this was,
I do think it could be good to have like at least the tag team because we also have talked about women's tag teams and they're not
and how
so, like,
there's
the
none.
Carmella, Zelina, Carlina,
Melina. That guys,
versus
that's
Naomi.
in use right now. So I like it. I liked all of this. This was really fun. Contract signings, they're just so funny because something's gonna happen. So that was cool.
And the last thing I'll say on this too is just like Bianca didn't need her braid in her mouth.
Yeah,
like that, is it just me or this year 2021 has been the year of like putting things in people's mouths and beyond the hands and like
that they didn't need it. They didn't need
it's funny because like it's a really it looks goofy, but because it's Bianca, it's not goofy. That it's
you thought it looked goofy? I thought it was really well executed. I thought it was really well executed. Yeah.
I was even just thinking of the pictures because Sasha loves posting pictures of her beatdowns on Bianca on social media. So probably if you go to Sasha's Instagram,
her Instagram, her Twitter.
Yeah.
She said yummy. She said yummy. What was the caption on the picture?
Evil.
Yeah. It was so good. Sasha, heel Sasha is the best Sasha. So
it's really good.
Yeah. Next up we got the face-to-face with John Cena and Roman Reigns, and the clip doesn't do it justice. The promos back and forth were like 20 minutes, and guys, so I really want y'all opinion on this because there's so many wrestling tropes in these promos. I'm like legit confused on who's gonna win at SummerSlam. Like I am confusion because normally we get John Cena promising that he's gonna hit the 1, 2, 3, promising that Roman Reigns is going to beat him up, promising that he's gonna be the 17th. He's gonna get his 17th world title and promising he's gonna run out through the crowd blowing the kiss a la CM Punk. Like baby faces normally don't make promises unless they intend to keep them. But then we also had Roman doing the heel thing of you're great, bigging Cena up. That's all well and good. You did this, and that, but I'm gonna beat you. You know what I'm saying? Just oh man, this promo back and forth, so many layers.
It felt backwards to me. It felt a little bit like Cena should be saying what Roman is saying, and Roman should be saying what Cena is saying. A bit. And I just, I didn't love the stuff from Cena for sure. I mean, I just think it's a little bit too much. Like this is a problem I actually always have with The Rock, which is that he would just degrade his opponent. And this is the thing. Like, if you beat a chump, then you beat a chump. And if you lose to a chump, you lost to a chump. So it's like, build up your opponent. Like, and I think like Paul Heyman is like the master of this, of like, the stuff when he was on the other side of with Roman and like terrified of Roman, but he also had Brock Lesnar. It's like, okay, it'll probably be okay because I have Brock. And I just like, I didn't love the stuff from Cena, but we'll see how the match goes. I really hope Roman wins.
Me too.
But, you know, if we get Cena 17th,
I'm scared. Yeah.
Cena can't hold the title for, it feels like he probably can't hold the title for long, and that's what I like.
Yeah,
he becomes a little bit of like this transition champ, but his transition championship is also his 17th championship.
And that's why he said he just run out with it. Like he's like, I'm ghost, I'm gone. Like I don't. Yeah,
which is a weird comment to make, like for John Cena to make. Like,
yeah,
what? Like, and even when he ended, like, there's the comment like, at SummerSlam the champ is gone, and that was like maybe even his final line of this promo. But it's like, Cena, that's not your line. The champ is here. You're here to fight. You show up. You don't run away. What is going on? Do we need to have a talk? Do we need to show you videos of you doing the same thing 10 years ago, or did you just forget, or are you departing from your old ways? I'm just like, I feel bad for him.
Well, like Roman said, it's the same thing. It's been the same thing for 20.
Well, it's different
now.
Yeah, he's trying to run away. He wants to be CM Punk.
I definitely agree with you, Grace. Like this was nothing but John Cena just dumping on Roman. But the funny thing about it is, it doesn't hold weight anymore. Like all of the stuff you're saying about Roman does not hold weight in this current title run position. It just really doesn't. You know, you're trying to, if you're trying to play to the crowd or what the crowd felt about Roman, that's what they felt. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like even his staunchest like detractors have said that they really like this heel run for him. So it just doesn't, it just logically doesn't really make sense. He's like, oh, they called me back because you're bringing the place down. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, he's not. This has been one of the best storylines in the past year. So it is hard. It is hard to get into, but that's what I'm saying. Like those tropes of the babyface making the promises. And I was like, I don't want to see those 17th world title. Caught saying he's going to be a footnote. It was like it was very much. And how did you guys feel about Roman's response? Because Roman just paid him dust, basically paid him absolute dust, and just was like, yeah, I'm gonna beat you. Like it was really interesting.
They've each done better, and that's one problem with Cena that bothers me. Like it's wild that he only just got back, but he's like constantly overexposed in a way, and but I guess not. I mean, you say it all the time, Ari, like not everything's for everyone, and I was thinking about this, you know, like people are still into it and love it, but yeah, I think there's this thing they keep coming back to, like the whole missionary thing, and that's like Roman's like, oh, that you're just missionary, that's you, Cena, and it's like, okay,
I'm pretty sure that's Vince.
That was funny the first
loves
times,
that,
but
yeah.
now it's like, okay,
brutal,
you know. So it's like I don't know. I the other thing I was thinking about when you were talking about just the promo is, how does WWE like decide? How do they come up with this? Because we all know what we've seen. We've all been loving Roman. I'm sure he's selling a ton of merch. So obviously he's over, and it kind of just feels like they're insulting our intelligence a little bit. I mean,
that's the thing. I don't truly think that they wrote Cena's promo. I think Cena wrote his own promo, and he clearly doesn't watch wrestling anymore.
I would agree. I do feel
that actually, I mean, like
he had this idea.
That sounds right.
I think he that's sort of what Roman was before he turned heel. I think that's he was kind of this guy that Cena's talking about, but he's not anymore. He's so different. His character is so evolved, and Cena it feels like he's missing out. I know we talked about earlier with like the labors of Jericho. That really felt like that's the, it's the journey, not the destination. This really much feels the opposite. This is not the journey. It's a destination. It's going to main event WrestleMania. Roman and Cena are going to have a good match. Like,
you mean SummerSlam?
Or SummerSlam, sorry, what did I say?
I was like, please no.
Sorry. I mean SummerSlam. They're gonna main event. It's gonna be a really good match. They'll put together this like video package that like frames it exactly how they want it to look, and it'll be a very good video package. And they'll have this like really good match. And it's like, it kind of sucks. Like it feels like, I think you're right, man, that it feels like a little bit like insulting our intelligence a little bit. Like, all I want from wrestling is the story to make sense. for me to be invested. I'll suspend my disbelief for stuff that, like, you know, as long as there's like a path there, and this just feels like there's not much of a path there.
But, so, but I think
that was a great point, just to like, just to stress it, like, about Cena writing his own promos, because now I'm picturing a world where he says, okay, here's what I should do. And like, no one's saying to him like, no, that's the wrong direction. Like,
right.
Or even it's like, we trust you, John Cena. That to me seems like the most plausible thing of why this doesn't make sense and why it just feels so old and stale. But I mean, it works for WWE. Apparently they're happy with it, so
yeah,
I don't even think they're mad.
And you can tell in the promo structure, he kept was like 1, 2, 3. Cena's all about the audience participation. You know, he's like, he said, you're going to beat my ass. That's what's going to happen. But all I need is a 1, 2, 3. And this is referencing, I mean, even Roman said the little that he did said, he's like, oh, you're going to bury me. I think Roman, what the little bit that Roman said was way more, was way more in tune with the audience than what Cena said. But anyway, so Cena kept saying, all I need is the 1, 2, 3. All I need is the 1, 2, 3. Basically referencing how in some of his early matches, the people dreaded Super Cena, where he would just take all of this punishment out of nowhere. He hits one attitude adjustment and he's the winner. And he kept stressing that. And the more he stressed it, I was like, I don't want that to happen. So if we don't get a match structure where Roman beats the ever-loving crap out of him, we then get the Super Cena 5 moves of doom comeback, and then we got to get Roman kicking out and just beating him, for the win. That's where you go. That's how you logically conclude this storyline to me. That's how you tell an in-ring story as well. Now, will that happen? I don't know. And that's just my opinion. That's just how I would see it. That's how I would book it. But I think we're all in agreement. I hope we're really hoping that Roman comes out on top here.
I have like a quick theoretical question. Like, how would AEW approach this? Like, if this week, if the writers or if the people in charge and management switched and AEW was booking this segment, or even like this lead up to SummerSlam, how do you think it would be different? Like, because something I wonder, I feel like I don't know. I'm just like, this is going through my head because I feel like this is a bigger problem with, I know it's a bigger problem with WWE and how they book things, but I just feel like AEW would do so much better with these two.
I don't know, because the AEW, from what I understand, do not have much of a central writing thing. It's kind of like most of their talent have creative control. So could you see Roman and John Cena coming down and trying to book something really well together? So this is where one of those times where when you have stars as big as the two of them, that having maybe a writers and go-betweens and like, okay, how about this? How about this? You do this? How about this? You know what I'm saying? Might be productive, but I don't know the behind the scenes of AEW. I don't, the whole thought process is if egos get involved, we could see, who knows what we could see, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that much different, because they just, they probably do have a lot of, I'm sure they get like they both have bullet points of like what they're supposed to do, and they've kind of riffed off that.
Exactly.
And so, it feels like I could see like probably the like analogy that's closest is like, you do have Omega being this person who's like, Roman Reigns asks, he's not the same character, but he's a bit of like, I'm clinging on to power, I'm in, whatever. Like I could see where like Cody, if Cody was stepping up to him, Cody is maybe the most John Cena-ish person there. And I do think it's a little bit of like conflating. They're sort of, I don't know. I think it's interesting because like everybody wanted Cena to be a bad guy forever. His whole thing in this thing is very bad guy-esque. And yet it's almost like this is the worst possible time to have Cena be the bad guy, because now we love this bad guy Roman.
Yeah.
But you're setting us up for Roman to, Cena. I don't know if Cena's going to get booed at SummerSlam. but like, is Roman gonna get cheered? Like, it undermines so much of the reason that heel Roman has worked really well is not just that he's really good at it, but you also have to have people that people don't want to, people want to cheer against him. And so the way they're just setting up Cena, it's just undermining the good work they've done with Roman.
That's a great point.
To the point where I feel like SummerSlam could have this weird crowd reaction thing that to me, I don't, I'm such a like, cheer the good guy, boo the bad guy. I'm like, at a show, I'm like booing the bad guy. So
that's our job.
That's me. I'm like, yay, boo Sasha, boo,
yay,
Sasha, yay, boo.
I'm like wearing their t-shirt often, and I'm like booing them, but like I love them, but they're the bad guys, so I'm gonna boo them. No, don't look at me. So yeah, I mean, that's
a great point, Grace.
I just think it could be interesting.
But the other thing too is that I think WWE has been like piping in some of the crowd reactions, and we obviously that was the Thunderdome thing.
Did you not hear the Drew McIntyre thing where there was the John Cena 16-time world champion? They piped in Cena cheers.
I don't watch Raw.
The clip went around on Twitter.
Much like Roman.
You watch Raw. You just put on your sunglasses or whatever and your trench coat and pretend that you're not. It's not.
So during Drew McIntyre's entrance, there was a Michael Cole clip in that they were obviously embedding cheering. But they forgot to cut out that Michael Cole saying the 16-time world champion. Or whatever. Yeah.
They made some mistakes with piping in the music, which is nothing new, and they've done that for decades.
They should be better at it at this point with the pandemic era.
I mean, sometimes you hit the wrong button, and that's
funny.
They just do that a lot, I guess.
But yeah, before we move on, and I don't know if you had anything to say about this, Matt, but I agree with Grace here because the reason why this Roman character has been working so much up until this point is because they've been literally putting him up against some of our faves, like Kevin Owens, Edge, Daniel Bryan. You know what I'm saying? Really putting him up against people that people want to boo the ever-loving crap out of him. So when you do this, I don't want John Cena to win. So just like Grace said, I am not going to react well to John Cena. But, you heard the Tulsa crowd did like John Cena. This will be in Vegas. Who knows? But I completely agree with that. This storyline I don't like it because I don't want John Cena to traipse in here and take the belt. I don't.
Yeah, I mean I agree with everything that both of you have said here too, and it'll be, I'm really interested now in the crowd reaction and then how much WWE tries to influence that. I really hate it anytime that they pipe in crowd responses, with the exception of the Thunderdome, obviously, just because it's don't tell us how we should react. Let it happen and take that in and analyze it. If people are cheering Roman, then embrace that. If people are booing Cena, let it happen and do something with it. But it is kind of infuriating how WWE said it all throughout the pandemic how important the fans are, and I don't think that they really care that much about how we react and what we care about a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe that's nothing new.
I mean, I think I don't know. I feel like it's a case by case basis because I don't think
absolutely
I don't think Bianca Belair would be where she's at if she didn't get a lot of the love that she gets from a lot.
I agree, but then I look at Naomi. I think of Naomi.
Yeah, no,
so,
that is true.
And I'm oh, not Naomi.
That is true.
Right now.
You're right there. Yeah. So we'll see. We shall see. Seth Rollins versus Edge. This hype video, yo. This talk about WWE. Their video package department, again, give them all raises and then double it, because the video package, Seth Rollins attempts to show a video package of why he's better than Edge. It was so fun. It was not only was it funny, but it really did remind me of how great Edge was. but even more so for what was not said, because it was like he's like Edge debuted with a few factions and had a modicum of success. Modicum of success.
I mean, yeah. It's like, you know what? That's a good point.
it's like, yeah, Edge was the first Money in the Bank winner, yada yada yada. But I did the heights of this. I thought it was very hilarious.
I'm way too impressionable, I guess. That's the thing I learned from this, because I was like, you know what? That's right. You were in one of the most dominant factions, Seth. And you know what? I did forget about Edge cashing in the first time. I only think about you with the running down at Mania and getting. Yeah, so
yes,
I'm on board. Maybe I'm like, this felt a lot like a political campaign ad, and
yes,
this also I swear this had to be edited by the same person who edited the Sami Zayn conspiracy documentary early this year, because it was the same kind of tone and humor and everything. But,
yes,
ooh, this was I had fun watching it, and like, especially in a world where like we get so many hype packages and a lot of them are not interesting or new for us. Like this was really cool.
Yeah, I love the video package. I think it was really well done. It was really neat of like being able to find these moments that like you can make the argument that Seth has, you know, outdone what Edge did. I think this is a thing that I sometimes give flack to people for, is like, you know, we do, you know, come on every week and it's like, oh, this was bad, but you know, there is a full story, and I'm excited. You know, Seth is the bad guy, and again, he's like making these points that like you could easily see in the video package. Like, yeah, I guess he is right, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the moment, hopefully, for Edge to come back and be like, you missed a bunch of stuff. Like, here's all the stuff you missed, right? Because like it's not a full picture of like what Edge's career is, that like he was in the Brood, you know. It's like, okay, whatever, like I made it on my own, you know.
How did he yada yada 2 Royal Rumble wins? He's like, sure, you won the Royal Rumble twice.
You know, it was a Rumble. There were a lot of people. Anyone could have. I mean, like maybe he had a 1 in 29 chance. That's not how odds work, but you know, 30, 1 in 30 chance. Look, we're gonna stay away from the numbers, but you know what?
There's all this stuff that, you know, King of the Rings to, you know, the title. Like there's so much stuff that Seth is just like
so much
glossing over, right? That I think will be fun that Edge can now play with to come back. And I think, like, you know, after 1 week, to me, I was like, oh, this, you know, it's like Seth is right in this video package, but he's not really right, you know.
Not at all.
Do you think Edge will pull up his Wikipedia page and just screen share that on the Tron and just
much like what Grace has been doing all session?
Yeah. Grace has been in the
Facebook. I've been on the Facebook.
You're the Facebook, yes.
All of these takes, all of these wonderful takes are straight from WWE Facebook, which is also horrible, by the way.
Yeah, all of Facebook groups are horrible. I don't.
Not Job has a squad.
Burn the whole site. True. This is true. Love y'all. Job has a squad cast. Yeah. So, what did you guys also think about? Then, we get Seth Rollins, just basically saying, you should thank me because, if I had stomped your head into the mat 7 years ago, then you wouldn't have gotten, you know, what is that suit? Oh my God. I just got distracted.
The suits, the Seth suits are incredible.
The suits. It's like look at that. That's like somebody's couch. Oh my gosh. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you're only getting half the story. So yeah, just promising like he will not hesitate to cripple Edge. And it just brought Edge's family into it too, saying like your girls would be pushing you around in a wheelchair.
Oh, that was just brutal.
So brutal. So I mean, this was you, Seth, making sure that all of us wanted to punch him in the face. Like,
I want Becky to come back here. I want Becky to come back as like evil Becky, runs in, beats up Seth and dispatches him because he's useless, and then Becky's the one taking on Edge at SummerSlam. That's what I want.
Okay. All right. I don't know. It's like, sure.
I mean,
other than that, I really like this. I just thought it was really like good. It made it feel like a blood feud. It makes sense, and then it did give it like a big fight feel, more of a big fight feel between two of arguably like the greatest, you know, WWE wrestlers ever. So I'm definitely, this got me hyped. It really does. Those video packages really do a great job to get you hyped for like a match, you know.
It's just so rare that WWE like pulls that much into their like history and continuity. And there's just like, I think for a lot of us have been like thinking like when Edge returned, there's like, oh, he like, that was like one like very comic book villainy when he was like standing on Edge's neck being like, I will. And like now that Edge is back, like something we didn't think was going to happen. They're like referencing that. They're referencing like Edge and the Brood. Like it's all really good stuff that like there's so much history here that like it doesn't feel manufactured. It's like, here it is. Exactly. Here's the plate. You know, it's good.
That's exactly it. It doesn't feel like the storyline is being manufactured or fed to us. It's like they're like drawing on historical context, and it just helps so much.
It's good.
So we also got King Nakamura. He's the new Intercontinental Champion from Apollo Crews. It's just like, oh, okay. All right, I'm cool. I love this. I mean,
great.
Sure. Came out of nowhere here. The biggest thing I liked afterwards was Rick Boogs playing his song out on the desk with
McAfee on the desk. It's so good.
Yeah. Actually, my favorite.
Oh my god, I love this.
My favorite part of this was the fact that Pat McAfee, you know, he's wearing his suit jacket and then takes it off and he's just sleeveless, like rocking out. He needs to leave the announce desk and just like go, you know what? He could do it all. He could have multiple jobs. Just I want him with this group with King Nakamura. Sorry, I should show respect. And with Boogs because how amazing. What an amazing person. I don't know where they found Pat McAfee. I kind of do actually, but I'm glad that he's here now.
Me too.
Michael Cole has said that he credits McAfee with feeling like he's been really rejuvenated.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool.
And it really does feel like it because and they're back to it's just the two of them, right? It's a 2-man booth.
Yeah.
Right. So that was another thing I wanted to say about Rampage. Why was there 4 people?
Oh, too much. I thought they were when they announced the 4-man booth. I thought they were gonna like maybe Mark Henry and Chris Jericho like rotate in and out, but no, it's just 4 people. It's way too much. I don't love Jericho on commentary.
No,
apparently I don't love Jericho on commentary. I think that he is a bit doesn't jive well, but whatever.
It was so awkward. I just assumed that it was going to be like for the first show, so it's on.
I don't feel like it's a great learning environment for Mark Henry, who I thought was a little bit stilted. It was a little bit rough for Mark Henry.
Yeah,
and I think that just like being on a 4-man booth will not work for him. But
it's for anybody. I don't know if that's putting anybody in a great position. You know what I'm saying? Like 4 people trying to call a match, like you said, Grace, there's like a lot of times where people were trying to call the moves, but the move had already happened like 20 seconds, later. They're calling it too late or because they were talking. It was just too much. But anyways, so we got Pat McAfee, Michael Cole. The SmackDown announce booth is on point. He's been doing like a McAfee minute or something like in between like commercial breaks, and they put it on the YouTube as an exclusive, and it's been really funny. Just him. Each week he's talking to the crowd something different. But this was good. We got this title switch a week, 8 days before SummerSlam. Is this just an excuse to put them on the pre-show or something like that? I don't know where they're going with this. Apollo had a run. He had a run with the title.
It's a weird way to it's a weird way to end it. I mean, it's not like it was hot, but there was so much potential.
Yeah, I was really hoping we were going to get some sort of ladder match or something, because it seemed like there was multiple people in on these feuds over the last few weeks.
It certainly feels like something where Apollo had, I think I was on around the time that he did the stair drop on Big E, and then he sort of did the, he has this, embracing his Nigerian heritage. It feels like they had this idea for him, and they ran with it for a bit. They gave him the title, and then they were just like, I don't know what to do with him anymore.
Right. They gave him the bodyguard.
And I really hope
keep going.
I know. I hope that they don't. I hope he doesn't get lost in the shuffle in any way of like these. Is sort of my fear. Like, what does he do after this?
You know what? Because as much as we as much as we had strong reactions to it, like we were talking a lot about Apollo this past spring on the podcast, and just like the code switching and the character and everything. But like, it wasn't just us. Everyone was talking about him. And then I guess WWE just didn't think it was interesting anymore. If they just kept doing that same thing, like, yes, we would have maybe been tired of it, but like, he's a heel. Like, let him lean into all the heel things he was doing. And I wonder sometimes why, like, with someone like, I'm not going to compare it to, never mind. I understand why John Cena could do the same thing forever, and why Apollo Crews is like dropped in,
2 seconds.
6 months or whatever it is. So let's hope that he's able to come back, and let's hope that Commander Aziz remains around. Maybe they'll become tag team champions. Who knows?
True.
Wishful thinking.
Who has the tag belts now? The
Usos.
And they're gonna go. They're facing the
Mysterios again.
Yeah.
Ooh, they need to move on from that.
None of them are on the show, right? None of
that's what I was like. I don't remember them being on the show, but that's
there was a tag team match. There was the Otis Gable Street Profits.
Yeah,
but there was no Mysterios or Usos, which is kind of strange.
I know. I want comeback season to happen, man, and I want the Usos versus the Street Profits. Like, where are we at? Come on, WWE, come on. All right. Other than that, like, I want to touch on Sad Baron Corbin.
Okay, wait. Before we dive in, I just want to say that, we're not making light of anyone's like socioeconomic inequality and issues, and the economy is a thing, and this pandemic is also a thing with the econ. I didn't prepare a statement, so that's that. But this is really fun to watch, Mari.
Yes, it is. So
it's like disclaimer.
Right, exactly. Like, yeah, it is weird because people have been talking about, the WWE is making fun of poor people. It's like, I don't what like
it's like a little bit. It's a caricature of like Grace.
I have really enjoyed it. I think the like down on his luck Baron Corbin is like such
so good.
A like thing I did not expect Baron Corbin to have in 2020. This thing, the one thing I will say that I felt like here's Vince coming through, like here it is, here's how Vince is coming through, is this week of like him being Kevin Owens being like, you can't beg people for money if you lose. And I was like, I don't love that. I don't love this like begging people for money is annoying and like bad, and you need to stop doing it. Which they like set themselves up in a corner of like, we'll get to on Raw. He's like asking for, I mean, there was some gold on Raw as well, but like the, that's the one part I don't like, but I love the down on his luck. Like I can't have a shower. I'm sleeping in the production booth. Like it's wrestling when it's different, when it's something you've never really seen before, is exactly where it like it's the most fun. It's like, this is so silly, and this is where I can suspend my disbelief because it's ridiculous.
Exactly.
And it's also like the commentary was just off the, so I wrote down, I was just like taking notes on what the commentary is saying. So they talked about him being like the former king and former constable and sleeping in the production truck and being fined for his dress code and being on his mom's cell phone plan. They were having like a lot of fun with this too. But it's like, I think the thing that I like about this the most is that we haven't really gotten this version of Corbin yet, where it's like he's definitely the butt of the joke and not taken seriously, and we're getting a lot more personality from him than we ever have. So this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, we got like a network exclusive too of him like going around backstage, like talking about like a day in his life and how the security. No, this was early this week. I thought like security wouldn't let him in, and he's standing by a truck with his face on it. He's like, "That's me."
They were like, so rude.
It was so funny, but I completely agree with Grace. Like when I tell you, I was like, because on Monday he appeared on Raw on Monday and was asking Drew McIntyre for money, and Drew McIntyre hit him with the Claymore, and I was kind of like, oh man. But on SmackDown on Friday, that's when it did take a turn. I was like, oh
yeah.
Monday though, when Drew says, "I'll give you money. How much do you need?" and he goes, "Just $100,000." It's so funny. Baron Corbin is so funny.
You have to start high. You start high and then let him negotiate down.
It's so funny to ask for an unreasonable amount of money. It's so funny.
Drew was champion this year.
True. He's got money. He's got money.
And right. Merch. And he probably sells a lot of merch.
That's the funny part about it. Also, because Baron Corbin, like he was the money guy. Like he would flash, at least in NXT, he would flash around how he, used to play for the NFL. So he had all of this stuff and all this money, and that's all he cared about. Like, if you remember his Breaking Ground, he's like, I don't care about anything, just like make money. I just want to make money and go home. So like,
I've been on the Baron Corbin train for a long time. There was I can't remember. There's a match in NXT where he was like, he beat up somebody, threw him outside. It might have been like Apollo Crews or something. He's just like, I don't care about your indie like cred. And I was like, yes, that's such good heel stuff of like, embrace it, that you're like you're the guy who got recruited because you played football. Like I've always thought he's been like good. I loved the his early NXT stuff where the fans would count how long the match would be. Yeah, it was like really, he had this cool thing about him, and I thought he's like really grown. He gets a lot more hate than I think he deserves. He looked ridiculous when he would wear like what he's wearing now, but when he was the Constable, like I love Constable. He's Corbin. The bad guy. You're supposed to hate him. He wears a stupid outfit to the ring. It's good. It's great. So I'm excited that I feel like he's getting like more love than I think he's gotten in the past. He's so funny.
Yeah, and it also doesn't. It's the type of thing too where like we were talking about this a couple weeks ago when Cena was back, and then Corbin's the one who came out, and we also saw Corbin interrupt the contract signing and like dispatch of Finn. And even at that time, I was like, not Baron Corbin again. But then, I think like seeing it's like the personality for me, and getting more of that has been really great. And so maybe this is a turning point for him where we'll actually like get to see more of how he shows up rather than more of the stoic thing that they like, even back to NXT when he was amazing. It just was like more of a stoic badass on a bike type of image and gimmick.
Yeah, so we got Baron Corbin asking Kevin Owens for money. Kevin Owens said he'll give him $1,000 if he could beat him. Of course, he did not beat Kevin Owens, and that he was walking backstage, and they're like, Corbin, what's gonna happen now? And he comes across. Where was Big E? Big E's Money in the Bank briefcase was just on a table. Was he there?
He was there.
Okay, Corbin must have snatched it so fast. I just saw Corbin snatch the briefcase and just run.
Yeah, and then, but it's funny because I don't like, he is a very athletic guy. Like, he could catch up with Corbin.
Was he the one sitting behind the
So he was standing behind the table. I'm not sure what
he pushes him. He pushes him. He's like doing autographs or something. And Baron pushes
standing there. So like sitting there next to E. So then E couldn't get past the guy. Look, it's
a table.
So fast.
It's on the table.
I saw the table. Yeah.
Why sitting? Big E's there. Corbin pushes Big E back, takes it, and runs down the hall. And then there's like the guy.
And I guess you just lost him.
So I know Baron Corbin
I don't want you to get.
I know he has been the Money in the Bank holder in the past. I know he knows what it does.
Yeah.
But I so desperately want him next week to open it up and realize there's no money in the.
Well, no. That's what I was thinking too. But then he said okay. So in another clip after this, he was running off like past the production trucks. And he's like, I'm gonna be the next champ. I'm gonna be so rich. I'm gonna be a billionaire. So I think he's gonna try to cash. I would assume he'll try to cash it in.
I'll take it. And Big E like stopping him every week. I'll take that.
This is gonna be fun. A fun transition between him and Corbin. Yeah.
But if we talk about the legalese of all of this, does he need the briefcase to cash it in, or like could he just print another copy of the contract?
Big E does need, I think, the briefcase, but I don't think Baron Corbin can cash it in. But I want to. I don't mind. Like this is again the different ways in which like the way wrestling is different and things you haven't seen before. Like starting a feud by having Baron Corbin who's down as like steal Big E's Money in the Bank contract to set up a feud with Big E is great. I love it. It's not just like we should fight. It's like no, there's this like stupid storyline reason.
Right.
Don't mind me. I'm just looking up the legal precedents by looking up the Miz versus Otis.
Yeah, look at please get the legal paperwork. If you could find the Money in the Bank contract.
Mr. Kennedy also won the Money in the Bank, but I think he lost it in a match.
In a match,
he had to lose it. I don't think you could just steal it, but. Also, it's WWE that can make up their own rules. That if you stole
it. Like a court ruling, forced Otis to defend the contract on a match against Miz. Miz beat Otis, and he then got the contract. But it doesn't say. I guess this is another legal precedent. Yeah, y'all don't you remember the court scene?
Yeah, but I'm just like the law and. WWE don't go
Everybody
together.
Loves legal storylines.
It is kind of questionable. It's a whole other topic, actually. They really do love to bring the cops into it.
I think it's because Miz had the what is it? What is 9/10 of the law? What is it?
Possession.
Possession. Yes, Miz had possession of the contract.
Go to law school.
Oh, so there's no. I kind of forgot that Miz took it. So yeah. They you still have to defend it though.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm on board. I'm on board with this. It's fun. I'm on board with this. It's fun.
Maybe we get another court ruling of Baron Corbin gets his shot to own Money in the Bank. If
I just want to see him try to cash it in and not be able to cash it in, which I mean makes sense for the character.
Yeah. Yes. Oh man, that's good. It's a funny, just a very, very funny storyline there.
Yes.
Okay, so that's it for our SmackDown highlights. Again, you can follow along with us as we go through the clips. Just check our show notes and show description. So let's just briefly talk about Raw. I mean, like seriously, really briefly. I mean, like honestly, for Raw, there, stuff kind of happened, but it was also just like meh. We got Bobby Lashley and MVP did a pretty good promo against Goldberg, but like, okay, girl, whatever. Like Goldberg wasn't there. We got Doudrop versus Alexa Bliss in a weird match where Lily winked at Doudrop. I'm like, okay, what
highlight of the night.
Right. So and like my favorite thing that we're not going to talk about is the Mansoor and Ali storyline continuing. Like that is some good storytelling. I want them to eventually get past Retribution, Mason T-Bar, but the tag division in Raw especially, but WWE is like dead. So them building up Mansoor and Ali, basically a storyline where Mansoor is like trying to drag Ali back into the light, So it's just good. Amazing. It really is. It's so good. But what we'll talk about here and what we have a clip in the highlight section is so Randy Orton. It's the saga of Randy Orton and Riddle. Randy Orton came back. Randy Orton came back. He didn't explain it. Really? Did I miss it? I don't think he explained it at all.
He just took a little break.
He's just like, hey guys, sup? And then Riddle comes out and is like, oh bro, we can bro. Like, yeah.
Yeah, bro. Cool. Let's bro up, bro. Let's bro up and down. Bro.
Yeah. And then he was like, oh, we got to get back together. And they're like, the audience wants us back together. And then AJ and Omos come out to kind of like throw some jabs at them. Again, these are Raw Tag Team Champions, which I'm just like, okay. I still maintain the fact that they only gave it to AJ so he could be the Grand Slam champion. Yeah. And then we get a match. RK Bro, they end up defeating Omos and AJ. They're taking their victory lap. And then what did I say? Why did you look at it?
Oh no, you're awesome. I was just gonna say.
Okay.
I think we just even skipped over the video package
Oh, I did. Yeah, they're the cute video pack. This is the one time where I was like, this video package, I do not care. We got an RK Bro video package.
It was upbeat.
And it was also, am I wrong? It was just Randy versus AJ. And then afterwards there was like commotion.
Was it?
No, that's so good. I think so. I think it was like a Randy versus AJ match. But then Riddle and Omos get into it at the end. And
there it is. That's
what happened.
It's on. I don't be paying attention.
Yeah, this is why we have the clips, people. You need to, I mean, you could hear our comments about stuff, but like get the details in the show notes with the playlist, or just watch the shows. You know?
Yes, exactly. Okay.
I hope we don't go like immediately into like Randy versus Riddle. I do want a little bit of like Riddle being this like persistent, like, come on, and I know like maybe some people just want Riddle versus Randy and then the feud is over. I don't mind this, like, you know, Riddle being like, you know, heartbroken in a sense of like, you know, Randy turning, and I don't feel it's like in Riddle's character to immediately just be like, okay, then let's fight. I mean, he is a fighter, so I don't know. I think there is some interesting stuff they can do there. Is the most interesting, I mean, Randy teaming with somebody who then he turns his back on, is that new ground? Certainly
right. That is why I had the problem where he hits the RKO on Riddle, and then the commentator was like, "Oh, and he did the unthinkable, or we never saw it coming." Like, sir, we saw it coming. Everybody saw it coming.
I mean,
this is his thing.
AJ did say it, right? AJ did say it to Randy, and so that's why I think like don't go right into this like, okay, well now I'm gonna fight you like you did it. I kind of want Riddle to just keep coming back, being like, no, I know you did that, but like it's okay. I still want to be your like tag team partner.
That'd be
and I almost hope that like I want the like will they won't. I want them to like, you know, a will they, like I want that to like happen. But maybe I don't know. Maybe not everyone loves RK Bro.
My read on the situation at least is like everybody knew it was coming. I mean, we saw earlier in the night, like we basically saw like Randy turning on Riddle, and then he turns back and then turns on Riddle, really turns on Riddle. And it's just like, you know what? I'm okay with it only because Riddle doesn't get it. And I almost imagine the crowd, I have no clue what they were chanting, but like, no, like get out of there. And then it happens. Or at least it felt like they were anticipating something beyond the hug, because it's Randy Orton. Like this is what he does.
Exactly. Like it's just
the problem I think for me with Raw. I would love a little bit of like Randy realizing he like Riddle will help him, and it's like a good thing. But like, who is there to be like the big like
bad guy
taking down Randy Orton? You know, like there isn't really of like a thing that Randy Orton can't overcome, really. There's like nobody. Who is there? Like maybe Bobby Lashley, but I don't necessarily want this whole storyline wrapped up with Lashley, so I don't know. It's fine.
Raw is lacking in a lot of ways here, but we got the beginning of the end of the beginning. Let's see, of RK Bro.
Yeah.
I had to include this on the clips. It's very convoluted storyline. Morrison, Sheamus, Damian Priest, like Ricochet, they're all kind of woven storylines here. But the biggest thing that happened this week was Damian Priest was facing John Morrison, and then like Miz tried to intervene. And after Damian Priest got the win, he like spooked the Miz, and Miz stood up. Not only did Miz stood up, he then ran away.
He ran faster than he's fast. That was impressive, and I feel like I'm gonna let the confusion about the injury just stay over that, because I thought he had a torn ACL.
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
I mean, maybe he did have an ACL injury. I have no clue. Grace, did you?
I don't know. Worked the whole time.
I don't know if it's worked the whole time or whether it's like something that like it was an injury and then you're able to like, you know, don't tell him exactly when he's coming back so that, you know, he can then like surprise people. Like we get this moment, but I don't exactly know.
But the funny thing is, I think it was the opposite, because I feel like they told us he was out for at least like a year or something like that. Am I tripping?
I mean, they probably.
I can't remember, but that's what I think. That's what I think WWE does. I think if somebody has an injury and they tell you like right when they get the injury, like they'll be out 9 months, then it's like, oh, they're probably gonna be out.
It's 5 to 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are some horrible doctors. Like, oh yeah, it's WWE. It'll be 9 months. Like, oh
yeah.
He did an interview, I guess, in June where he's saying like I like reading the injury reports about me because nobody knows. As I'll be out for a little bit of time, but I'll be out 9 months. I don't plan on being out 9 months.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so then, all right.
Yeah, but also
so
it's like
us.
I mean, the way I remember watching that interview and even thinking like, oh, well then maybe that's the type, like we see it all the time with people where they're projected to be out a certain amount of time. And it's not even like WWE is necessarily lying to us, but like we've seen it in the past with Cena where it's like he's injured, he'll be out for a year and then he comes back super early. Like that happens in wrestling. Maybe the doctors are really bad at predicting how long people will be out for things, but I don't think that's what was happening here.
Or it's just the dirt sheets, take stuff and run with them too, as well. Right. So
yeah,
that could mostly be it.
Yeah, I thought it was fun that Miz gets to be the like fool who's been caught red-handed. I think it's fun.
Yeah,
I'm a bit over him being involved with Damian Priest.
Same, which is good because after the match, then Sheamus came out. And him and Damian Priest had a back and forth here. So it looks like Damian Priest is probably going to get a shot at the US title. And that'd be really fun. Like, I really like that. Sheamus is really doing some good work here. Like, friend of the pod. Like, he's doing some good work. In a sense, like, he's holding that belt, but I don't feel like he's stifling anybody. You know what I'm saying? Which can happen when you have, like, older talent around. You know what I'm saying? And maybe in past junctions of his career, but he's doing, I think he's doing a really good job of holding that title, having great matches, being goofy. I love the mask, like
love a good face protector mask.
I'm telling you, I do. I really like those. So so good for Sheamus. He's doing a great job, and I hope Priest wins. I hope we get some more matches from them, and then he passes the torch to.
It's been a while. We haven't had a like a D'Lo Brown chest protector, like a Bob Orton cast. Like everyone always said that Lex Luger had the pipe in his fort, like the bar. We need someone to bring that.
Cool. Yeah,
the like it's an illegal object, but they're like I need it. We haven't had that.
Yeah, so this has been great so far. And then finally,
what was
we get Elias?
We
get Elias burning his guitar, and he's like, WWE used to stand for Walk with Elias, but now it's not. And I'm just like, first of all,
pyro now.
Has was Elias on the show last week? He probably was. I like that whole Jackson Riker stuff. So I'll show you how to get me disinterested real quick and fast forward. Like when I do watch Raw, I watch it on a DVR and I fast forward.
Yeah, we're talking about him now, which is really, I think maybe a failure of ours because we could have gone this entire podcast like this whole year basically, or like at least the first 2 seasons without talking about Elias. So yeah, it was weird. Why is he? See, as I was watching the video, the only thing I could think about is why do you feel the need to burn your guitar? Because he just smashed guitars left and right. Like, don't buy another guitar. That's a good way to switch your gimmick. You don't need to be like a pyromaniac. Like, dude,
they're like, no, they're like, this gimmick is dead. They wanted you to know.
And he's not Elias anymore.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if this is a name change thing or this is just a different gimmick.
He
did say Elias. Well, maybe he's going to be the dead man because he did say Elias is dead.
That is true. He did say Elias.
I don't even honestly.
I don't know.
I wish
it's going to be the Undertaker Jr. I think. I don't know. It's like, okay, let's see what you got. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
What are you going to do?
I included it here because it's like, okay, like what now? Like this might be something we cover in the future, just because like a talent comes out who hasn't been doing much, and then he's like, my gimmick is dead, my name is dead, so where do we go from here? Especially with that gimmick, that Walk with Elias gimmick was so over. Like,
it was so
was
over.
it 3 or 4 years ago, and they never pulled the trigger on him at his maximum height where he could have been. And it really is sad. I remember when we went to take over in New Orleans for the WrestleMania weekend, the only thing people were doing was yelling woo and singing like and saying Walk with Elias. Like it's crazy, you know, how people really loved that gimmick when he first came onto the main roster. So I don't know. I wish the best for him. I really hope he's able to, because we've never seen if he can adapt to anything else. So I hope he can.
He was over as a, like, you know, the stuff attraction. And then also like that moment when him and Kevin Owens make fun of the Seattle Supersonics. Like I've never seen Heat like in an arena like that, like the boos, like he's a good bad guy. So like there's something in there, you know, it's like, I'm like worried that he's just going to be like, I'm super serious now. Like I have no guitar. I'm just going to be like a mean bad guy. And I'm like, he's so much like more than that. I think especially for a guy who really surprised us coming out of NXT. Like he wasn't much in NXT. And he just like exploded onto the main roster. It's really neat to see. So I do hope there's something, you know, they have something interesting. Or he has something interesting in mind here.
Let's hope. And the positive news is it seems like they have something in mind. But the thing that keeps going through the back of my head with a lot of people, well, I mean, they gave us this.
Yeah,
but then again, I mean, look at everything with the former Aleister Black. Like we had a promo, and then we saw how that ended up. So now I'm like, oh, this could be a great gimmick, a horrible gimmick, or they could be released. And like that's such a scary, like a horrible thought to have. But that's WWE nowadays, because even when people are on TV, like that's not a guarantee.
That's not safety.
It's not.
They put so much trust in him, though, to like, you know, like sitting alone in a spotlight in the, you know, in an arena. I feel like they put much more trust in him than many other people that we've seen released recently. So I think Vince likes him. So
let's hope. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to go into other people who are released, but this is like where the jaded thing. It's so hard to not be like, well, they might not be here in the future, because like WWE has been so we've seen so many examples of people being on TV like that week and then gone 2 days later with NXT, with Smackdown, you know, and all that, you know, different things. So let's see what happens, but hopefully it's great.
Yep, hopefully it's great.
Hopefully it's not a Kane type of gimmick, as just like another. Let's hope that there's not
another undead character. Yeah,
Please,
I hope he's just not generic wrestler number one, like a creator wrestler. Like that could be really bad.
Yeah,
but who knows?
Yeah.
That's it for the highlights of the week. Let us know how you think, how you feel. Tag us, hashtag Wrestling RHAPup. Send us any of your emails, your questions, anything like that. And again, all of the highlights that we just covered can be found in our highlights playlist in your show notes or show description. Okay.
All right.
So, guys, we have a shoot segment this week. The shoot is any unplanned, unscripted, real life occurrence in a wrestling event, and this is where we each week just give our thoughts on something that happened in the wrestling world, just raw and unfiltered. So, this week we gotta talk about Keith Lee. Keith Lee opened up about his absence. How long was it? It was 7 months, five.
Yeah,
7
basically
months?
from February until the return with Bobby Lashley. If you're watching on YouTube, just a refresher, the match we had with Lashley just a few weeks ago, really.
Yeah.
But
amazing.
We had no idea really what he was going through over that 6 or 5
the
months
speculation was so rampant. Like people were reporting like, oh, him and WWE are in disputes over his naming rights and stuff like that, and like all sorts of contract negotiations, and just like, oh, is Keith Lee gonna leave WWE? You know, it was just a lot. And Keith Lee, throughout those months, he would tweet stuff like, you know, don't worry, it's for the best. Like, thank you guys for, support, but it'll all make sense in time. And, just the very stuff like that. And then at one point, Mia Yim as well disappeared off of WWE TV as well. Yeah. So this week he dropped a YouTube video explaining what has been going on for the past, like we said, was that 7 months. And basically he had caught COVID. He had caught COVID. Then he thought he was healing from that, but then he was told that he had an enlarged heart, and then it just got really scary for him there. Like, he was saying he was battling death at one point. He also addressed, which I saw this as well, and it really sucks that he saw it in the state that he was in, but people blaming Mia for him being gone, because I know initial rumors were like Mia Yim had gotten COVID, and I think a lot of people were saying she had caught it at some party, with it was a while back, but like with Chelsea Green and all of them, they're all like on a boat or something. Oh yeah, yes.
In Florida.
Thank you, Matt. The New Year's party. The New Year's party. Like, there was a whole bunch of rumors that she had caught that, and then that she had given it to him, when he reveals that actually he had caught it, and then he had given it to her 3 weeks later, to the point where she actually missed the Royal Rumble. And
what is wrong with people, by the way, as a side note? Because
that's what I'm shooting on, actually.
We'll get into it.
The people.
Like, really, like, do you not know about HIPAA? Like, you don't have these people's medical records.
So exactly. So he also points out that Mia got COVID because she was taking care of him, and he credits that if she didn't take care of him, that he more than likely could have passed away. So, which is honestly, if you've listened to any of the podcasts I did or I do, I am a healthcare professional. I've been on the front lines of COVID. I have been on the back end of COVID with testing, and it's not something to joke about, and it's true. A lot of people who pass away, especially ones in the early going, pass away in their homes because they didn't have anybody to really help them, because the disease can be very debilitating to where you can't even get out of bed, and so Mia nursing him, back to health to the point at her own misfortune is not this is not something that's new. This has been happening for over 18 months now. So we need to be respectful when it comes to people's health and not knowing what's going on. And like Matt said, I'm shooting on the people who were very rude to both Keith Lee and Mia Yim, not only when they didn't know what was going on, but even after now. I looked at Keith Lee's video. I looked at his Twitter and his tweets, and people are still in his comments saying like, oh, I don't know if I believe this. I really think WWE is mishandling him and punishing him. I'm like, what? You don't believe the words coming out of this man's mouth on his experiences? Like, it's very, very frustrating. And it's just, I feel so bad for them being in this spotlight, dealing with this, coming so close to death. Because like he said, like, he had an enlarged heart to the point where they told him he couldn't do any type of physical activity, because they felt like maybe if he did, he might end up dying. So he had to not do any physical activity for like going on 5 months until like the inflammation slowed down. They had to do genetic testing on him. COVID really got a hold of him. And as somebody who is an athlete in great shape, like, it really got a hold of him, and he was finally given the okay. And then he had to get into ring shape. And for people to sit here and question his story is just like, y'all, give it up. And even Mia tweeted something like, be kind to people. You don't know what's going on. And then somebody had the nerve to say like, well, in fairness, if you guys had just told us what was going on, then we wouldn't have jumped to conclusions. Are you serious? Are y'all serious? Like, there's stuff bigger than wrestling, going on in the world and going on with these actual people. These are characters. They play characters on TV, but they're actual people behind those characters. So can we just show a little bit of respect to the performers and, just be kind, Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I like thinking about the shoot coming into it, I completely agree with you and everything you said, and +1 co-sign to that. But the other side of it too is just like, wow, the things that he has been through this year, and also especially by extension, Mia Yim, like, you don't know, and people lose focus on the humanity of it. And so even to like shift the attention away from the fans for like a split second, like, I'm just so happy that he's in such a better place, because again, Mari, you said it perfectly in so many ways. We really don't know what's going on with people in their lives. And I think especially when it comes to social media, it's so easy to just like throw off a comment or not even give something a lot of thought or be considerate in any way, and just kind of like, crap on people, or just throw out a thought that you probably wouldn't even remember the next day. Like, oh, I tweeted that thing. People are like, I think people get so disconnected from who the performers are. And I appreciate Keith Lee coming out and sharing his truth and his reality as a human, as a person, because number one, that's not something that he owed anybody at all, which is important to establish. But also the fact that he did, I think, like, I would like to think, just being a little bit optimistic about it, that there are people who see the situation and will think twice next time that they're, on Twitter or on social media or on a podcast making comments and just like trashing people for things that, one, are not even confirmed, two, are none of their business, and three, that like, you don't need to say it. You don't need to put it out there. Keep the thoughts in your head. They're horrible thoughts to begin with, but keep them in your head. Like, you don't need to do it. You're not making the world a better place by sharing some of these things. What's the point? And it sucks. It's scary. We deal with this social media hate. People deal with social media hate all the time. And I'm just glad that he's able to, like, hopefully bask in the glory. That wasn't planned.
There it is.
But bask in like the support that he's received since,
exactly.
Since all of this.
Can I add one little thing? I think
as much as
everything. No, you've said everything I would want to say, and I think the one thing is that obviously we want people not to do, to fill these, send these messages. There are people who will do it, and it's unfortunate. The best thing we can do, I mean, if you're listening to this and you've been doing it, please don't. But the other thing is like saying, like, people often are more reluctant to say the nice things, even on social media. It's a thing that I try to practice more recently in my life, of like, to show love, to show, to say the things that I'm like, am thinking. And so the more we can fill, the time. It's hard as we are all people who live, do things that are in a public sphere, and when I might get like 20 really nice tweets, and then the one like tweet that's like not super nice, I'm like, I think about it a lot. But the more we can do to make sure that there are like, there are 20 nice tweets to like counterbalance, it is helpful in some ways. It's not perfect, because we all deal with this stuff in a different way, but the more you can do to like be putting love out in the world is the best way, I think, to counteract people who are not going to stop putting hate in the world, as much as we would like them to. But I would assume very few of those people are listening to us, this community.
Everyone who's listening here is great. And they're like, I'm sure that they're a lot better than, and that's the other thing too. Like, you kind of pointed to it, Grace, that like there could be the 20 or, maybe in his case, like 2,000 or 20,000 supportive comments, whatever that might be. And then the negative ones, but the negative ones don't have, like, unfortunately, less of an effect. It's not like, ooh, I received 20,000 positive comments and 100 negative ones, so the ratio, like, I feel so good because of that. Like, no, those things still have the negative impact. And I think something, just to build on what you're saying, because you mentioning just like us as podcasters, even, I think, and this applies to Keith Lee too, people often feel like they know the people that they're hearing from, or know the characters that they're hearing from or seeing. Like with Keith Lee, people are constantly following him on social media, seeing him interviews that he's doing, seeing him on TV, and you feel like you might know this person, even though it's a character. The same, I'm sure, goes for podcasters and for like us too. And it's just like you really like you don't, even if we think we know people or know something. I think it's the real world tagline. You think you know, you have no idea. And that's just the reality of the world. And so it's like important to be curious and ask questions, or like stay in your lane.
Yeah,
that's all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know, that is it. You know, sending lots of love, light, prayers, positive vibes to Keith Lee and Mia Yim. Because, you know, they deserve it right now. And hopefully he continues to heal. He continues to be able to do what he loves, but safely. Like, that's the biggest thing, as safely as possible. If at any moment it's not safe anymore, it is okay for him to take a step back.
And just a bigger picture, like just to be grateful for him, like even, and Mia Yim, thinking back to last year, I mean, right after George Floyd was murdered, like they were on TV wearing Black Lives Matter stuff, like on NXT and representing that, I think probably more than anyone in a lot of, from what I remember at least. And so we need people like them, and hopefully the negativity doesn't drive people, good people, away from being part of this thing that we love and that we want to constantly be better, and that we want to be for more people like us and for more people in general who haven't always been included. So seconding all of it. We love Keith Lee and Mia Yim, and awesome. That was our shoot, I guess.
Yeah, that was our shoot. So this was such a great episode. We always have fun when Grace comes to town, when the sheriff comes to town. The sheriff Stella. Sheriff Stella. Yeah, I love that.
That's so my next gimmick evolution. She quits the library and runs for.
Do you have a hat?
Exactly.
Like
I don't think I have a little sheriff's hat, but I'll get a badge. I'll order one up.
Sparkly one, like a sparkly one. Yeah, but we loved having you. Any final thoughts about anything we saw this week?
No, there's a lot of good stuff. I think that I mean, you folks are out here watching it all, and I very much commend you for it. My biggest takeaway is find the stuff you like to watch and watch it. And there's so many ways to watch wrestling now. You don't put it on the DVR and fast forward to the stuff you're like, I don't love that. There's so much good stuff out there. I mean, this is not this week. I really miss the independents wrestling. I used to go a long time. I'm really itching, especially seeing people that I watched on the independents get to make it an AEW. I'm like, oh, I really miss seeing them in a church with 200 people. But there's so much good stuff out there. There's really cool stuff happening in the world of wrestling. So I was happy to get to chat with you both about it.
Awesome. Grace, can you tell us what you've been up to? Where can the people find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Hi From Grace. You can follow at Hold Up Podcast with 1P. I do a weekly podcast with my co-host Hudson, where we watch an LGBTQ piece of media from the past and see if it holds up. Matt has been on an episode where he talked about Billy and Chuck from the WWE. The wedding from 2002. We've done another wrestling episode on Goldust, so there's some wrestling stuff in there. I make sure to squeeze it in, but it's really fun. We watched Ugly Betty last week, watching Ally McBeal this week. So yeah, that's cool. On Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, you can catch me on twitch.tv/DMPhilly, where I play Dungeons and Dragons in space. It's really fun. It's like a regular D&D campaign, but we started on a spaceship. There's some folks who have been on this podcast. Josh Wigler plays. He's probably the only one, but I also, if you're in the RHAP world, DJ LaBelle Klein, Kurt Clark, Brooklyn Zed plays.
Brooklyn Zed, shout out.
Woodward. Yeah, it's really fun. It's really good. And as part of the Post Show Recaps Discord, Patreon, and also on Twitch, DM Philly's Twitch, we did a 41-hour marathon D&D session. We played 9 games.
Too much.
Played 9 games, and we rotated in who DM'd and who played. And I DM'd a game, and I played in a game. But we raised almost $7,000 for various charities as part of the 41-hour stream. And it was so much fun. So you don't have to watch the whole thing, But if you're interested in like, eventually it will be put on Philly's YouTube channel. YouTube, I think it will be DM Philly. You can check out bits and pieces. It was a really incredible thing. This like really neat community that's RHAP is a podcast adjacent, you know, post-show recaps. It's this really neat community that came together and did a really great thing. We did like there was a thing a few months ago where people ended up being on the call, like after a game. We ended up on the Discord call, and they ended up for like I think about 35 hours or something, and somebody just started donating to charity. And so we raised like $2,000 that time, and we thought, what if we did it for like real and like really like actually put some work and effort into it? So that's what we did. It's really cool. I'm really proud of what we put together. Yeah, twitch.tv/DM. Yeah, it was really cool.
And thanks for making the world a better place. It's cool to see like that so in the podcasts, like we talk, and you especially, Grace, like are talking about a lot of important issues, especially thinking of Hold Up and thinking of just everything on PSR that we've talked about here. But yeah, like raising money for charity. This is a thing, Mari. Maybe we need to get a charity stream going or something.
Play WWE 2K for 40 hours.
Oh my gosh, I can't do anything for 40 hours
like
straight.
4 or
the
something.
nice thing was we got to trade off a fair bit, so like it wasn't the same people doing it the whole time.
Straight.
That's awesome though.
Okay, Matt, where can the people find you?
Right here on
now.
the Wrestling RHAPup, where you could find us. But you could also find me at Matt Scotchy W. I almost forgot how to plug myself. Like, how do the kids say the handles? But yeah, on Twitter, especially hit me up, follow me, DM, whatever. And looking forward to hearing you there. But I'm just here on the Wrestling RHAPup. And then also, you know, I've been popping into some of the recap coverage for Big Brother 23, which has been kind of cool. We just were on the slop on the RHAP Has a Podcast Patreon. RHAP has, well, you could find that probably at patreon.com/RHAP, but also RHAP has a website.com/Patreon, you know, lots of ways to get in there. And so that's just some of the places where you could find me, but I'll be here. Well, we'll be back actually. And we'll definitely be back, but we'll also be back in less than a week because we have our SummerSlam predictions episode coming up in a few days. So stay tuned. Mari, where could the people find you?
You can always find me on Twitter and at Stereo at Mari Talks Too Much. That's 2, like the number 2. I will always be here for the Wrestling RHAPup. No matter if I am in a new house or in an empty house or fighting my my connection, you'll see me here. But also, I just finished guesting on the Love and RHAPup podcast, the RHAP Love and Hip Hop Atlanta podcast with Sasha Joseph, one of our wonderful guests this season. And it was so fun. Again, if you're not familiar with the Love and Hip Hop franchise, this is the perfect time to just dive in. Season 10 just started. Me and Sasha talked about episodes 5 and 6, and it got real deep, y'all. It got real deep, but also very funny as well. And so, just like most of the RHAP-ups, you don't even have to watch the show if you don't want to. You can just check in and listen to me and Sasha just be goofy for an hour and a half, or 2 hours. I talk a lot, so I think it ended up being 2 hours. In case you haven't heard.
And again, like shout out to Sasha for her show, which is really exciting, and she's amazing, and she obviously was on here. But please check that out.
Check it out. Yes. And again, check us out, the Wrestling RHAPup podcast, anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also check us out on YouTube. Rob has a podcast on YouTube. Please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all of that. Please support us, especially on your iTunes or in Spotify. Leave us some comments, leave us some ratings so somebody else can find us. Other than that, I guess I will see you next week. Matt, well, nope. Like you said, I'll see you in a few days.
Technically, it's next week. So
it is technically
next week.
Yeah. And thank you so much again, Grace. And to everybody out there, watch out for any flying elbows. Goodbye.
Bye.